The man known as the demon of the battlefield held the frail woman in his arms as she took her last breath, tears falling endlessly. No matter how many times he turned back time, the outcome never changed. Every single time she died right before his eyes. If it had to end this way, he would rather send her off with his own hands. After hundreds of regressions, the demon of the battlefield realized he could never save the woman he loved. In despair, he walked alone into the village. Everywhere he set foot, red flames consumed the ground, until the whole empire was swallowed whole. When the fire that had burned the empire finally died down, nothing was left but ash. Without hesitation, he freed himself from it all. Thank you all for loving this story until the very end. A woman held her phone, overcome with emotion, unable to stop herself. The black-haired woman burst into tears, murmuring over and over that in her 2 years as an editor, this was the first time an ending had ever made her cry. Author, this isn't a romance novel or a fantasy story anymore. This isn't just a bad ending, it's a complete disaster. The moment the call connected, she shouted, Author, what is this ending? It's nothing like the original plan. What kind of romance ends like this? The author replied calmly over a sip of coffee, because I felt like it. If you don't fix it, I'll tear up the contract, she screamed into the phone, drawing stares from passers-by. As the crossing light turned green, she stepped off the curb, pleading, Tear up the contract? Come on, author, don't do this. Let's meet and talk it over. If this keeps up, the ending will just be the male lead going mad and destroying the world. No reader wants that. Just as she said it, she suddenly froze, as if she'd sensed something. She turned her head slightly, her eyes going still with a flicker of unease. She screamed in shock, Are you out of your mind? And quickly stepped aside. Hey, watch where you're driving, keep your eyes open. What were you thinking, running a red light? Before she could finish cursing, a deafening crash rang out. The crowd broke into chaos. Is she okay? Someone's been hit. In the last flickers of consciousness, she thought bitterly, Damn it, I should have just let that truck hit me earlier instead. Struck by a green sedan and on top of a ruined mood, her eyes slowly closed. In the pitch-black void, urgent voices rang out, Sue, Swanna, wake up now. Wake up or not, just say so. The silver-haired girl suddenly opened her eyes wide. The golden-haired girl glared at her, furious. It's your turn to clean up today. The silver-haired girl sat stunned, eyes darting around. Where is this, and who am I? The golden-haired girl yanked her arm, voice sharp. Acting like this as a novice sacred maiden? Get up now, hurry. Stunned, she thought. Wait, I'm a novice sacred maiden? Clutching a basket, she peeked around. This building is so magnificent. Everything here was built from pure white stone. She glanced around. Everyone wore the same uniform, all equally neat, so these were the people called sacred maidens. I've seen stories like this on the news before. If this isn't a cult, I'll eat my hat. But still, why did I become a sacred maiden named Swanna? I remember calling the author on my way somewhere, then getting hit by that sedan. Since I'm still conscious, I probably haven't died. It must just be a dream before I wake up, she thought with a sigh. Being a romance editor is rough. Even my dreams are overly dramatic. When I wake up, I need to take sick leave. I wonder if a traffic accident on the way to work is covered by insurance. Suddenly, something caught her eye and drew her attention. Across the way, 2 sacred maidens were whispering, No, really, I'm telling the truth. That's exactly how it happened. Looking at the scene before her, she thought, whether this is real or a dream, there are always people who live carefree lives somewhere. This really doesn't need to be this realistic. It's just a dream anyway. No point worrying. Might as well stay quiet until I wake up. The 2 kept whispering without pause. Did you hear? He's about to be made a count, that Raphael Winters. The words made her freeze, her heart skipping without warning. She dropped her basket in shock as the other kept talking. Oh, right, I heard he was also granted the Kinkrit territory or something. Swanna rushed over, voice tight. What did you 2 just say? The black-haired girl snapped. Swanna, what are you doing? Have you forgotten your place? Swanna ignored her and shouted, I asked what you 2 just said. Swanna's outburst left the other girl stunned and shocked. She stammered. That Raphael Winters won a great victory in the recent battle, so he's coming to the sanctuary soon to receive his title and territory from His Majesty. Swanna gritted her teeth and repeated the words, territory. The Kinkrit territory. Swanna realized in horror, that's the land cursed by demons. As if she couldn't believe her own hands, Swanna slapped herself hard across the face. The two girls shrieked in alarm. What's wrong with you? I don't know, she's lost her mind. She held her cheek, muttering, that hurt. Wait. The brown-haired girl, not quite catching it, asked in confusion. Huh, what did you just say? Without warning, Swana grabbed the black-haired girl by the collar. Then she shouted, draw your sword, you must cut. The black-haired girl went pale and stammered, What? My collar? The golden-haired girl rushed to pull her friend free and snapped, don't you think you're going too far? Apologize properly right now. Swana bit her nails, lost in thought. Raphael Winters, Kincrit, the land cursed by demons. This isn't a dream. Realizing it, she clutched her head in despair. I've been transmigrated into a book, into a background character, and draw your sword you must cut. Swana sank to her knees as if drained of all strength. She'd been hit by a car while arguing about a ridiculous ending. The male lead going mad and burning the empire to the ground and then falling numb with grief. But why did it have to be this novel? Swana suddenly froze, as if she'd remembered something. Wait, that means this place would soon be turned into a sea of fire by the male lead's own hand. Swana dropped to her knees and wailed, what did I ever do wrong to deserve this, author? The two girls panicked. What is she even talking about? God took 6 days to make the world and rested on the 7th, but this madman destroys 1 in 7. This lunatic male lead is so insane even Satan would call him master. Whether this was a dream or a transmigration, if she just sat still, she'd be swept into that fiery ending. She had to avoid it at all costs. A girl stepped closer and asked with concern, Hey, Swana, are you okay? I don't know what's bothering you, but I'm sure there's a way to fix it. Calm down. Swana muttered, a way to fix it, right? If I just think it through carefully, there has to be one. Stop causing a scene and go back to your room, someone said, but Swana suddenly sprang up and shouted, Let's run away, leaving the girl gaping. What did you just say? How dare you say something so blasphemous, even as a joke? Swana ignored her, thinking, if I stay here, all I can do is wait to die. From what she remembered, Raphael had regressed many times after being made a count. She didn't know which loop this was, but if it was still before the title ceremony, there was still time before the fiery ending, so the first thing to do was. Having made up her mind, Swana turned and asked, How do I leave the sanctuary? The black-haired girl said in shock, Wait, were you serious about running away earlier? Get a grip. Swana, do you know what happens to a sacred maiden who abandons the god? You don't even want to stop being a sacred maiden, so how exactly do you plan to leave? The words left Swana frozen for a moment. Then it clicked. Swana's eyes lit up, so I can leave as long as it's just a thought. The other two panicked. Wow, wait, what did you just say? Swana looked confused. It was just a thought? Why are you all overreacting? Without thinking further, Swana turned and walked off. Well, might as well just walk out. Just stepping outside should be fine, right? I'm off. Not watching where she was going, Swana crashed straight into someone walking toward her. Swana lost her balance and fell. The person she'd bumped into asked quietly, Leaving? Did I hear that right, Swana? You just said you wanted to leave the sanctuary. Swana propped her chin up, looking clearly annoyed. Judging by her appearance, this woman seemed to have quite a bit of seniority here, so Swana decided to just tell her straight. Swana answered plainly, Yes, I'm leaving. Please step aside. Before she could finish, the woman suddenly lunged forward and yanked the necklace off Swana's neck. Then she said coldly, When you leave this sanctuary, you're not allowed to take anything with you, except for that ordinary body that has already betrayed the god. After a moment of silence, Swana said quietly, Understood. The woman looked stunned. What did you just... Swana cut her off. I said I'll be leaving on my own 2 feet. Oh, so I don't need to use polite speech anymore then, the woman said with a smug smirk. Swana turned to leave and couldn't resist sticking her tongue out behind the woman's back. Swana walked off without looking back. Whatever. Did she really think that would make me want to stay? The guard was stunned and shocked at the sight of her. He quickly asked, Sacred maiden, where are you going? Swana, already rushing toward the gate, called back, I'm not a sacred maiden anymore. I quit. Swana jumped for joy. Oh, this freedom tasted as sweet as she'd always dreamed it would. Being around you people was nothing but a headache. Hope I never see you again. But reality had other plans. Once again, Swana was jolted awake. Swana, get up. Are you getting up or not? She snapped her eyes open in alarm. What? Swana bolted upright so suddenly it startled the golden-haired girl. Oh my. The girl shouted. Are you out of your mind? Why are you suddenly screaming like that? Swanna mumbled in confusion. Wait, didn't I already leave? The golden-haired girl frowned, annoyed. What nonsense are you talking about? You think anyone can just walk out of the sanctuary whenever they please? Someone like you would be finished the second you stepped outside. She trembled slightly. She was certain she had already left the sanctuary. The memory was still vivid. There was no way it had all been a dream. But the instant she'd left the sanctuary, she'd been pulled right back to the exact moment she'd first transmigrated into this body. It couldn't be. Just like Raphael Winters, could she have regressed too? Swanna still insisted on leaving. I've decided I'm done being a sacred maiden. The golden-haired girl flinched. What? She hurriedly grabbed Swanna's arm. Hey, stay right there, she snapped. Who gave you permission to just quit? It's your turn to clean up today, and on top of that, how dare you try to leave while still wearing the sacred maiden's necklace? Swanna reached up and grasped the necklace at her chest. She pouted, remembering that senior sacred maiden had already ripped it off her once before. It's just a necklace. Why make such a big deal out of it? Thinking that, Swanna took off the necklace and handed it over. Here, happy now? Now stop following me around. All you people ever wanted was this necklace anyway, right? As for the clothes, I only borrowed them. The golden-haired girl looked confused. I was only bluffing with the necklace thing. Is she really going to just leave? Swanna hurried off. First, she needed to confirm whether she could actually leave the sanctuary. If stepping outside triggered a regression every time, she'd never escape that fiery ending. Swanna squeezed her eyes shut in despair. If I die here, there might be no way back. This truly would be the end. She couldn't let that happen, no matter the cost. The same familiar scene appeared before her once more. The guard asked, Sacred Maiden, where are you going? Swanna answered again, I quit, and dashed past him so fast it sent his wig flying. He froze in place, staring blankly at the wig lying on the ground. After a moment, he slowly bent down to pick it up, muttering, Oh, I see. Swanna charged straight ahead, resolute. No amount of doubt would change what she had to do. So for now, she had to test it herself. Thinking that, Swanna gathered her momentum and leapt, jumping straight out of the sanctuary. Swanna landed safely, steady on her own 2 feet. She froze for a moment. Then she glanced back over her shoulder. Finally, she turned all the way around to face the gate. Swanna said anxiously, I've actually left the sanctuary, and I haven't regressed. Regaining her composure, Swanna broke into a happy smile. In that case, the best plan was to get as far away as possible. With that, she skipped off cheerfully. She thought to herself, it seemed leaving the sanctuary didn't always trigger a regression. Still, she kept running fast just to be safe. But, looking at the scene before her, she frowned in confusion. Is this a village? Swanna figured she might find some useful information here, something that could help her escape. The novel had only ever mentioned the Kinkrit territory, so she had no idea where she actually was. Just wander around a bit then. Suddenly, a man rammed hard into her shoulder. Swanna lost her balance and fell forward. Instead of apologizing, he looked annoyed and shot her a disgusted glance. Swanna rubbed her aching shoulder, muttering, Did he seriously click his tongue at me? What a nutcase. Just then, she heard him mutter, What a mess. Swanna instantly boiled over. He was the one who ran into her. How dare he act like that? Nearby, a little boy tugged his mother's hand and pointed. Mommy, look. The person who just fell looks like a sacred maiden. Look at the pattern on her clothes. The woman quickly covered her son's mouth. Shh, hush now. She glared at Swanna with disgust. Someone without a sacred maiden's necklace isn't a sacred maiden. She's no different from a demon. Swanna panicked. The necklace. Wait, hadn't she just thrown that necklace back at them? Swanna tore at her own hair. Could his attitude really be just because she wasn't wearing the necklace? Is this cult so extreme that not wearing a necklace makes you a monster? She'd never seen a setting like this before. The boy glanced back and whispered, That person is so strange. Mom's right. She must be a demon. Wait, hold on. She suddenly froze, thinking it over. Had the novel ever even mentioned a sacred maiden or a sanctuary? Draw Your Sword, You Must Cut was supposed to be nothing more than a tragic love story between a noble young lady and a deranged knight. Mid-thought, a stone came flying out of nowhere. It struck her square in the forehead. Swanna looked down at her own hand, her pupils shrinking in horror, blood. The culprits were the villagers, all shouting in unison, Witch, get out of our village. Go back to hell. Where you belong. How dare a witch like you strut around out in the open? Swana froze in shock. She had no idea what was happening. She knew this novel well, and this setting simply didn't exist in it. Was this truly the world of draw your sword, you must cut, or had she wandered into the scripture of some cult instead? While running, she tripped over a tree root. Swana fell hard, face first onto the ground. She struggled to sit up and check her leg. Ugh, that hurts. It's all scraped up. Why is this happening to her? At that moment, Swana suddenly remembered the golden-haired girl's words. Didn't she know what happens to a sacred maiden who betrays the god? Someone like her, the very moment she stepped outside. Swana pursed her lips and smiled, so that's what they meant. They could have at least said so clearly. As night fell, Swana's gaze was suddenly drawn to a house up ahead. She frowned curiously. Where did this house come from? This spot was nothing but trees and grass just a moment ago. Even so, she still walked up and knocked, figuring that since this was a novel, it made sense for a house to appear right when she was at the end of her strength. She called out softly, "Hello, is anyone there? Sorry to bother you, but could I stay here for one night?" Swana had no idea something had appeared right beneath her feet. Before she'd even finished speaking, the door suddenly swung open. Swana stared, bewildered, at the door that had opened on its own. Still, Swana pushed the door and stepped inside, murmuring, "Excuse me." She spoke softly, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. May I come in?" But Swana had no idea that countless dark shadows had silently appeared before her. Swana looked around and sighed. There's really no one here. Suddenly, BAM! The door behind her slammed shut, making her jump and cry out. Swana steadied herself, her heart still pounding. That scared me half to death. Must just be the wind. That must mean this place had been abandoned? Swana immediately flopped down onto the floor with a sigh. Whatever, she was too exhausted to care. Even if the owner came back, she needed to sleep first. As she drifted off, Swana murmured, "Whoever you are, I'm sorry. I'll clean everything up before I leave. Please just let me stay one night." And as she fell asleep, she hoped it would all dissolve like a dream. But Swana had no idea that in the darkness, countless eyes and hands were quietly reaching toward her. The next morning, sunlight hit Swana's face and she stirred awake. She sat up and stretched. Sure enough, it hadn't been a dream. Swana's eyes suddenly went wide in surprise. She looked down at her clothes and frowned. What is this? It's only been one day. How did they get this dirty already? Swana stood up, brushing off her clothes, muttering, "Must be from getting hit with stones yesterday. And on top of that, they won't even wash out. Why did this outfit have to be white?" Just then, her stomach suddenly growled. Swana walked off, never noticing she'd just stepped on something. She rubbed her stomach and sighed. I've barely moved and I'm already starving. If only there were something to eat around here. Well then. I've rested enough. Time to go, she said, reaching for the door, about to step outside, unaware that the shadows were silently following behind her. Just as she went to shut the door, she suddenly froze. The door, it wouldn't budge. The reason was, a massive shadowy figure was blocking the door. Swana, startled, pulled harder on the door. Huh? The shadow gripped tighter, holding the door open so she couldn't close it. But in the end, it couldn't overpower Swana. The door slammed shut with a bang as she forced it closed, and the thing let out a pained growl. As she walked away, rubbing her arm, Swana sighed. Ugh, this door is stuck so badly, never noticing the shadow's torn-off hand trembling faintly behind her. Hey, you there? A sudden shout rang out, catching her attention. A man pointed at the house. Did you just come out of there? Swana hesitated. Well, yes, he shouted in horror. So you actually slept in there? Swana quickly covered her face. Ugh, your spit just landed all over my face, mister. He kept firing questions at her. Didn't you hear any strange sounds like something being dragged or someone crying? She waved her hands quickly. No, listen, he continued. Or did anything hurt? Like you couldn't breathe or couldn't move? Swana was speechless, thinking, something about this sounds oddly familiar. At times like this, running is the best policy, she thought, and turned to leave right away. Behind her, the man kept calling out, Hey, where are you going? Are you sure you're really okay? Swana bolted deep into the forest, frowning, Ugh, so annoying, hungry, and wasting time both. Life is hard enough already. Let's never meet again. And the next day, another person spotted Swana and shouted, You You actually went into that house and you're fine? Swana thought to herself, is this place some kind of local legend spot? The day after that, the same thing happened again. You there? Why did you come out of there? Didn't you hear anything inside? Swana yawned and answered calmly, yeah, I just slept. You sleep like a log. And then the next day, sorry, could it be? Before he could even finish, Swana, busy picking her nose, cut him off. I'm not sick. I didn't hear anything. My head's completely clear. I'm not leaving unless you pay me. Night fell once more. Swana was so furious her eyes nearly rolled back. She looked up at the sky and shouted, what on earth is going on? I'm not a monkey at the zoo. Why does everyone keep asking me the same thing like I've got some kind of disease? She clicked her tongue, thoroughly annoyed. Who would even want to like this place anyway? With that, she flopped down in frustration. Forget it. Overthinking will just wear me out more. Please. Tomorrow, I hope I wake up back in my old world. After she drifted off, a pitch-black hand quietly appeared, slowly resting on her shoulder. More and more shadows appeared now, silently surrounding her. It bared a mouthful of jagged teeth, slowly leaning toward her. The next morning, Swana was woken by urgent knocking at the door. Swana bolted up and rushed to look at the door, worried. Please don't tell me this house isn't actually empty. Realizing that, Swana startled. Oh, I should answer the door first. The moment she opened it, Swana blurted out in a rush. I'm sorry. Are you the owner? I'm truly sorry. I'm not the type to just barge into someone else's house. But yesterday I was in a desperate situation, and just as she said this, she caught sight of the face at the door and was struck speechless. The only thought left in her head was, wow, what a rare, handsome man. Right after, he raised his hand and gave a signal. His two subordinates immediately seized her. Former sacred maiden Swana, you are under arrest on charges of witchcraft and worship of demons. Swana's eyes went wide in shock. What? He explained, there have been reports of a sacred maiden repeatedly entering and living in houses possessed by demons. Swana pointed at herself and shouted, who on earth reported a law-abiding citizen like me? And besides, demons, what are you even talking about? This isn't some supernatural horror story, this is a romance novel. Swana asked back, are you saying things like evil spirits and demons actually exist here? He pointed toward the house ahead, his voice ice cold. The house you just came out of, and every other place you've stayed before. They were all possessed by demons, places where ordinary people would die the instant they got near. Swana's lips twitched, she thought, delusions of grandeur. I thought only kids had those. Seeing her expression, he said coldly, why make that face, witch? Swana forced a smile and explained, no, it's just that this is ridiculous. In this day and age, how could demons possibly exist? She added silently, especially in a romance novel. With that, she snapped angrily, well then, why don't you just say you've seen them yourself? The instant she finished speaking, the air went rigid. The two subordinates exchanged a glance, a flicker of shock in their eyes. Only then did Swana grow afraid. Is this actually true? He coldly ordered. Take her away. Swana struggled nonstop. No, I already told you I'm not a witch. Let me go. Once they arrived, he shoved Swana forward roughly. Then, he reported respectfully, by your command, I have captured this servant of the devil, Grand Sacred Maiden. The woman looked at Swana in silence for a long while. Then, she smiled faintly. Well done, Supreme Commander of the Sacred Knights, Michael. He bowed and replied, it was nothing. I only did what a devoted follower of Moandala should do. Just then, Swana spoke up, drawing the woman's attention. Excuse me, Grand, Sacred Maiden. As you can see, I've truly been wrongly accused, honestly. Demons, witches, I don't know the first thing about any of that. With that, she raised her hands cautiously and asked, so, if possible, could you please untie me first? The woman stepped closer, bent down to look at her, and said softly, how pitiful. Since you are a servant of the devil, you cannot be saved. Those words sent a chill down Swana's spine. What? What did you just say? Swana shouted, what is even going on? Who is actually the devil's servant here? The woman turned away, a knowing smile on her face. There's no other way. We'll have to carry out the ritual. Swana's eyes widened in horror. Don't tell me. Swana stammered in fear. That's, don't tell me, a stake. Swana thrashed violently in resistance. You people are insane. Don't do this. I already told you no. This is absurd. Have you all lost your minds? The Grand Sacred Maiden gave a faint, triumphant smile. Swana looked at the torch in their hands and thought, Am I really going to die like this? What did I even do wrong? All I wanted was to live. Swanna screamed in panic. Hey, mister, don't light it. Hey, don't light it. I really am not a witch. I'll report every last one of you to the Human Rights Commission. You damn background characters. You think you'll be safe forever. That day will come too. This place will turn into a sea of fire sooner or later. Swanna grimaced and screamed, Ugh, it's so hot. Please, somebody put out the fire. Before the Grand Sacred Maiden's triumphant smile, her voice faded into despair. Put it out. Swanna's vision dimmed. Her consciousness slipping away, she murmured faintly, Please. Swanna's eyes suddenly snapped open in shock. The golden-haired girl glared at her and snapped, How long are you planning to just lie there? It's your turn to clean up today. Swanna broke into a cold sweat, thinking, What just happened? The feeling of being in that sea of fire still felt so vivid. Am I back again? Swanna called out to Iroh, her voice trembling. Iroh looked at her, confused. Huh? Swanna asked urgently, Have you ever witnessed a witch trial? Iroh frowned in confusion. Why are you suddenly asking that? Did you have a nightmare? Iroh thought back for a moment. I have seen one, maybe twice, when I was little. Both times it was a sacred maiden, burned at the stake for running away, for not being able to bear life in the sanctuary anymore. Iroh frowned. But you're not using a nightmare as an excuse to skip work, are you? Swanna tensed, gripping her hands tightly. Swanna thought, if this just keeps happening over and over, will she never escape? Not even by dying until this novel finally ends? Iroh studied Swanna thoughtfully, a hint of suspicion in her eyes. Iroh suddenly snapped. Hey, you ask a question and then just tune me out? You think being a baron's daughter means you can do whatever you want? Whatever games you play, you're still just a novice sacred maiden stuck cleaning all day like me. If you understand, then go clean already. Seeing Swanna still silent, she frowned and added, Look at you. Swanna couldn't hold it in anymore and snapped, Clean? Is cleaning all you ever think about? Iroh flinched. Swanna. Swanna leapt off the bed and grabbed Iroh's shoulders, shaking her hard. I'm a sacred maiden just like you, not your personal maid. Swanna startled and stepped back, stunned. Are you crying? Iroh sobbed, her voice trembling. You've had a raging fever for days now like you're about to die. I've had to cover your work this whole time. 10 days straight, and you just kept ignoring me. Last night I was so scared. It was like you'd stop breathing. Swanna scratched her chin, thinking, Every time I wake up it's at this exact moment. Does that mean the real Swanna has actually died? What a mess, but she must have gone through so much too. Swanna stepped closer, placed a hand on Iroh's shoulder, and smiled. I'm sorry. For the next 10 days, I'll take over your work too. Iroh looked stunned, really? Swanna nodded. Of course, just point out everyone's tasks to me. You've been at the temple longer than me anyway. Iroh pouted but still listened. A moment later, Iroh spoke up. Bottom of society, Sue, finally showing some sense. The two of them got to work. Let's start with the kitchen then. That's the spot to clean today. Yes, I'll be counting on you, Senior. Swanna walked behind her, thinking, as long as I can earn the trust of everyone in the sanctuary and gather enough information, I will definitely escape this damned cult. Outside the sanctuary, Swanna was sweeping the courtyard in front of it. Swanna paused to wipe the sweat from her brow. Watching Iroh, she thought to herself, thanks to Iroh, who thoroughly enjoyed being called Senior and happily explained everything. She'd even managed to find the records room, where information on the sacred maidens was kept. The problem was, as just a novice, she had no right to enter. What was she supposed to do? Isn't she working harder these days? Hearing that, Swanna immediately perked up her ears. Swanna quickly ducked behind a pillar to eavesdrop. One voice asked, Who? The other answered, That baron's daughter. Ah, bottom of society, Sue. Ah, but turns out she's not actually his real daughter. Swanna froze. What? Swanna isn't his biological child? The other maiden asked curiously, What do you mean? I heard the baron's wife had an affair, so he refused to acknowledge her, wouldn't let her carry his name, and even locked her in the attic until she turned 9. The moment she turned 10, he sold her straight into the sanctuary. Would he really do that if she were truly his own daughter? That does make sense. She walked away quietly, thinking, poor Swanna, who would have guessed she had a past like that? Whether it was the original owner of this body or her, surviving in this wretched world was equally hard for both. Suddenly, the head chef walked in calling out, Swanna, are you there? Swana walked over and asked, "Looking for me, chef?" The chef beamed with delight. "Ah, there you are. Where are you cleaning tomorrow?" Swana answered, the library, maybe?" He asked eagerly, "When are you coming back to the kitchen? None of the others can do even half as well as you." Swana said bashfully, "Chef, please don't be too hard on them. I was just lucky enough to meet your standards. It's an honor to work for you, the one in charge of meals for the whole sanctuary. I'm truly grateful." The chef beamed with pride. "Ha, would you look at this girl?" He asked. "How old are you now?" She answered, "I'll turn 18 next month." The chef leaned in and whispered to her, "I'll speak to Barbara so you can be made a full sacred maiden once you come of age. Remember that." Swana shook her head modestly. "Oh, that, becoming a full sacred maiden, how could someone like me deserve that?" He said again, "Come now, Swana, you're being far too modest, trust me on this." Swana looked flustered and called out, "Chef, chef." But inside, Swana thought, this is 100% going to happen. In the last loop, she'd also become a full sacred maiden, so surely, exactly how many loops had this been by now? To become a full sacred maiden, she had to appear so hardworking and obedient that everyone knew her face, and even display an unsettling level of devotion. All it took was standing before the prayer room every night, faking sincerity, shedding a few tears, and the high priestess would appear with a hollow smile, and the next day she'd be granted the title. Damn it. It played out the same way every single time. The problem was what came after. The high priestess looked at her, smiling. "Swana, may the light of Moandala forever watch over you." Then that beam of light slowly floated toward her. It landed on the back of her right hand. Right after, a mark appeared on her hand, shaped like a six-pointed star. Swana flinched at the heat and quickly pressed her other hand over it. Everyone turned to look at once, shocked. Right after, they all drew their swords in unison, pointing them straight at her. The pain of the sacred mark seared through her. Even so, after countless regressions, she could now endure something as simple as being burned. At this, the high priestess looked at her with a satisfied smile. Swana nodded back, thinking, what a hassle. Only after regressing many times did she realize the one safe way to leave the sanctuary. It was to take part in the purification ritual, a duty reserved only for full sacred maidens. While she changed clothes, the high priestess reminded her, "Tomorrow morning there will be a title-granting ceremony for a new count. Since this is your first official event as a full sacred maiden, be sure to attend." Swana bowed her head respectfully. "Yes, understood, high priestess." She thought to herself, what a long, tedious road this had been. The moment the priestess's ceremony ended, she'd take on the purification duty and immediately flee the sanctuary. At least that was the plan. And so, the next morning at the sanctuary, everyone gathered to welcome the newly titled count. The moment she saw who had arrived, Swana panicked. So it turned out, the guest of honor at today's ceremony was none other than Raphael Winters. Someone announced, "Today is a great day of celebration, a hero of the Empire, a man who has won glorious victories on the battlefield, is being granted a title. Along with the Kinkrit territory to Lord Raphael Winters." The air suddenly went still. Swana watched Raphael tensely. What is he doing? Just say your thanks and get this over with already. The high priestess spoke, "Count Raphael Winters, may you forever serve the Empire with unwavering loyalty." Raising her hand, she continued, "May the Almighty One in the heavens, may the light of Moandala forever watch over you." Swana flinched, staring at Raphael. What is it? What's going on? Is he staring straight at me? That gaze was terrifying. Exactly the look of someone capable of destroying the entire world. Swana quickly looked away, thinking to herself, "No, it's not that I'm bowing my head out of fear, it's just not worth the energy to pick a fight right now." Raphael kept staring at her with cold, piercing eyes. Not long after, inside a cave, Swana hummed as she walked. Her escort warned, Be careful with your steps, sacred maiden." She replied, "Yes, understood." The escort walking ahead somehow tripped over his own feet. "Ah, go away," Swana thought in confusion. What exactly needs purifying here? This just looks like an ordinary cave. Never mind that. Purification wasn't her real goal anyway. Now that Raphael Winters had received his title, time was running out. She had to leave before he went mad and burned the whole empire down. Lost in thought, Swana didn't notice the rock beneath her feet. Seeing her fall forward, the escort cried out in alarm, "Sacred maiden?" He asked with concern, "My lady, are you all right?" Swana grimaced and answered, I'm fine, just a small scrape. He looked at her wound, worried, saw a sacred maiden, that wound. Then he shouted, This isn't good. Please leave here right away. Swana asked, confused. Huh? He said demons love the smell of blood, urging her to leave. Swana was at a loss for words at the fanatics, but had no choice but to keep playing along. Tears streaming down her face, choking back sobs, she said, Sir Malik, it's too late. Please leave me and run. I'll only draw the demons to me. He refused. I cannot abandon a sacred maiden and save myself alone. Ah. Sir Malik, how brave you are. The light of Moandala is shining down on you. She clasped her hands in prayer. O Almighty One, who watches over us amid the chaos, Moandala in all your glory, you demand devotion, and this humble servant answers with unwavering faith. The moment she finished, golden light began to appear. He looked at her in astonishment. Wah! What is this? Swana sighed inwardly in exasperation. What an idiot! Look at his face. Does he really believe praying makes miracles happen? Swana kept praying. There is nowhere beyond Moandala's sight, nor anywhere outside your protection. The escort immediately swept her up into his arms. He said, Please continue the purification ritual so we can leave here together. Swana thought to herself, being carried bridal style for the first time, and it's by this idiot, how annoying. Outside the cave, everyone was waiting. Someone pointed at the cave entrance, stammering, Seeing the two of them emerge, they rushed over. Swana kept praying, May every path lead me forward. May they all bring me closer to you. Swana looked at them and thought, in this cult, getting injured and still walking away safely was somehow seen as a rare miracle. Her so-called devotion was being praised even more because of it. Swana sighed inwardly. What is even the point? Is this really worth making such a fuss over? From that day on, she was assigned to even more dangerous places. The escort said, Once again, I'll be counting on you for the purification duty, Sacred Maiden. Swana thought bitterly, I should have just run straight out of that cave back then. Unless she wanted to be burned again, she had no choice but to keep faking diligence. Swana propped her chin up, wondering, is there really some kind of monster or spirit here? This sword and sorcery world isn't even supposed to have a supernatural setting, yet there are countless rumors about ghosts, and she'd never once actually seen one. At a small house in the middle of the woods, Swana slowly approached the old woman, thinking to herself, I already burned that doll, so the purification should count as done. Standing before the old woman, she said, The purification ritual is complete. May the Lord always be with us. The woman replied gratefully, Oh, thank you so much, Sacred Maiden. Sacred Maiden, I promise you, she said, handing Swana a small cloth pouch. Swana immediately refused. Oh no, I don't do this for material gain. But the old woman kept pressing the pouch into her hand. No, please take it. On the surface, Swana looked reluctant, but inwardly she was thrilled. Hey, thank you so much, ma'am. On the way back, Swana thought to herself, purification rituals in this world are no different from back home. She'd already saved up enough money that she could just leave the moment she wanted, counting today. Suddenly a voice called out, Sacred Maiden. Swana turned around and he continued, Forgive me for being late. Seeing who it was, Swana thought, him again, the guy who follows me around every time I step outside. He stepped forward and introduced himself. It's an honor to meet you. I am the Supreme Commander of the Sacred Knights, Michael Severino. Swana smiled and replied, Yes, an honor to meet you as well, while inwardly cursing, It's him, the one who framed me as a heretic and burned me the very first time. Michael reported, By order of the High Priestess, I have finished securing the perimeter of the purification site. Swana feigned gratitude. Thanks to the support of the High Priestess and the Commander, I should offer a prayer before we begin, while inwardly cursing them, May that old hag and this hateful man die a horrible death. Michael replied, Thank you, Sacred Maiden. Michael suggested, Let's go, I'll lead the way. She replied politely, Yes, thank you for the trouble, while thinking privately, I hope he trips and falls. He led her to an abandoned house. She realized happily, this was the very house she'd stayed in the first time she'd left the sanctuary, a golden opportunity to escape. Swana glanced sideways at Michael as she heard him say, In the past, other sacred maidens who entered this residence were possessed by evil spirits and met horrible deaths. Therefore, if you sense any evil presence, withdraw immediately, because if you become defiled, I will have to deal with you myself. Michael glanced at Swana as she replied, That won't happen. Because the great Mwandala is always by my side. Michael said nothing, only watched her. Swana stepped into the house. Through the window, Swana glared furiously at Raphael. You hateful man. It had taken everything just to keep him from following her inside. She looked around the house and murmured, This house, no matter what. She'd assumed this place only had one floor. But it turned out there was a second floor too, she said, lifting her skirt as she climbed the stairs. There was even furniture. It seemed someone had once lived here. Pulling open a drawer, she exclaimed, Oh, there's clothing too! What a blessing! She changed out of her outfit and remarked, Good. Wearing this should make me look nothing like a sacred maiden anymore. She remembered the kitchen had a back door. That way she could avoid his line of sight. Swana looked around searching. Found it. Swana's hand trembled as she reached for the door. She slowly pulled it open, thinking to herself, The moment I open this door, I'll be able to say farewell to this damned cult for good. The space was so quiet she could hear nothing but her own thoughts. Swana slowly stepped out of the house. Swana jolted, startled. A pair of legs appeared right in front of her. Swana lowered her head, anxious. Swana looked up, studying him, inwardly dreading, Damn it, I've been caught. That sacred knight. How did he find her? Wait. Once she saw clearly who it was, Swana froze in place. Swana pointed at him, stammering, Why are you here? Swana quickly moved to cover his mouth. Right after, Raphael drew his sword and pressed it against Swana's throat. Raphael gave a wicked smile, just as I thought. You aren't afraid of death. Raphael released his hand from her mouth and threatened her. Scream and you're dead, you troublesome little sacred maiden. Swana frowned, puzzled. Why would you do this to an ordinary sacred maiden like me, someone who spent her whole life inside the temple? If you kill me, the sacred knight escorting me will deal with you. He gave a scornful laugh. Is that so? What's the big deal about killing off a sacred maiden who ran away because she couldn't bear the curse anymore? Swana thought bitterly. Damn it, he's right. Swana asked worriedly, So what business do you have with me? Raphael sighed. So it wasn't an illusion after all. This woman at the temple wasn't afraid of him at all. She even seemed to hate him, even though they'd never met before. Swana didn't back down. It's forbidden for Count Winters to have private contact with a sacred maiden. I'll call the sacred knights right now. Raphael warned her. I already told you, scream and you're dead. Swana shot back. Who cares? You're the one obstructing my work right now. She thought, even if I die here, I can just start over. It'll just be a huge hassle. Raphael sneered, obstructing. Then let me ask you this. Why are you not wearing sacred maiden robes while on duty? He added, especially something soaked in the resentment of the dead. Those words filled her with quiet dread. The resentment of the dead, can he see those things too? Forget it, none of my business. Let's go, she thought, and quietly stepped back. Raphael slowly took another step forward. Swana said helplessly, lowering her voice, Get out of my way. Raphael asked softly, Where do you think you're going? She snapped back, annoyed. None of your business, get out of my way. Raphael studied her and concluded, possessed by an evil spirit, is that it? Those aren't your own footsteps, sacred maiden. Swana, confused, raised her hand to stop him. No, listen to me first, but he insisted. You're merely acting on the will of the evil spirit wearing that outfit. Unable to hold back her anger any longer, Swana lashed out with a kick to his leg. She gritted her teeth and muttered, Enough of this nonsense. Listen here, you damned male lead. Raphael froze for a moment from the kick. Then, he broke into a lopsided grin. Brushing off his pants, he smirked, just as I thought. Raphael looked at her, certain now, you're no ordinary sacred maiden. Swana snapped, annoyed. Hey, wipe that smug grin off your face, it's disgusting. What exactly did you see at that ceremony to make you act like this? Raphael looked at her quietly, saying nothing. Swana could only force a smile. Suddenly, an image of Iroh flashed through her mind. Swana thought to herself. Back when she'd ignored what Iroh told her that day, hadn't she said something like this? Does this feel familiar to you? With that thought, Swana pointed straight at Raphael and snapped, Count, you don't have any friends, do you? And you've never had a proper conversation with anyone in your life, have you? Raphael gritted his teeth and asked coldly, What did you just say? Swana pointed at him, firing off rapidly. You don't understand people, you don't know how to communicate, so every time you speak, the air just freezes up, right? If you want to get information out of someone, learn how to talk to them first. Didn't anyone teach you that when you became a count? She thought to herself, I'm only saying this. He's not always like this, though. Back when he was still a night guard, Raphael Winters's very first regression began after the death of Lady Calendia Dawson, a woman he had risked his life to protect. He turned back time hundreds of times trying to save her, but the outcome always ended in failure. Sick of the endless loop, his emotions slowly began to rot and warp, and eventually. But even after that, the regressions never stopped. He remained trapped in the loop and eventually became a monster. Why would someone who had grown so extremely disgusted with humanity end up standing in front of her now? Raphael asked. Why were you there at the title ceremony? Swana answered calmly, because I'm a high-ranking sacred maiden. Raphael immediately countered, Impossible. That isn't your position. Swana thought in alarm, This is bad. Raphael must have gone through that ceremony many times before, and someone else always stood there in her place. Damn it. What should she say now? She didn't want to get tangled up with him anymore. Swana stepped back as she replied, I don't understand what you're talking about. Just then, Michael's voice rang out loudly, Sacred Maiden Swana. Sacred Maiden Swana, is something wrong? Swana thought tensely. Damn it, I've stalled too long. By now I should already have made it to the village gate. Swana whipped around, her eyes burning with resentment as she looked at Raphael. Then she composed herself and said, I don't understand why you're treating me this way, Count. I only intended to perform the purification ritual in this outfit to drive away the evil spirit, she said, clasping her hands together in prayer. Raphael remained insistent. Is that so? Weren't you trying to run away? Not wanting to argue further, Swana turned back toward the house. You've misunderstood. I hope we never meet again. Raphael asked. You said your name was Swana, didn't you? And the question made her freeze. He looked at her and asked further, Do you want to leave the sanctuary? Swana forced an awkward smile and answered, Of course not. Raphael said nothing, just kept staring at her intently, his gaze heavy with pressure. Swana hurried away, cursing inwardly, Damn it, I missed my chance to run. Outside, Michael kept pounding on the door. Sacred Maiden Swana, I'm coming in. She startled and shouted, Wait, I'm still praying, while inwardly panicking, Good grief, why is this man so hot-tempered? The moment he stepped in, Swana immediately dropped to her knees. Just then, Michael pushed the door open and entered, Sacred Maiden. He asked urgently, Are you all right? At that moment, Swana was deep in prayer. Seeing him enter, she smiled and replied, Yes, I'm fine, Commander, while muttering to herself, Next time I definitely need to run faster. Seeing her whole body glowing with holy light, Michael stood dazed for a long moment. After a while, he finally regained himself. Sacred Maiden, this outfit is? Swana stayed silent, smiling as she thought of an answer. A few seconds later, she lowered her head and said, An extremely powerful evil spirit dwells within this outfit. Ordinary prayer alone cannot purify it. I thought that if I wore it myself and prayed, it might work, but it seems my power still isn't enough. Michael shook his head slightly in admiration. The fact that you weren't possessed by it is already remarkable. You should step outside now. You've already prayed longer than is normally allowed. Hearing this, Swana flinched inwardly. Does he suspect me? I need to push this a little further, she thought. Then said, Commander of the Sacred Knights, this place is too dangerous. It needs to be purified as soon as possible, perhaps as early as tomorrow. Before she could finish, Michael cut in, But you've already overexerted yourself today. You need to rest first. Swana cried out desperately, No, I can't do that. I can't let personal reasons get in the way of the god's will. Michael froze again, the contempt in his eyes fading a little more. He said respectfully, Then please come with me at the earliest possible time. Swana bowed her head. I'm truly grateful. After that, the two fell silent, looking at each other. After a long moment, Swana said awkwardly, I need to change before we head back. Michael looked a little embarrassed too, then I'll wait outside. Once you're done, please come out, he said, closing the door behind him. Swana quickly called after him, Thank you for understanding. The moment he was gone, disgust crept back onto her face. That man is way too serious for his own good. Next time will definitely work. With that thought, Swana suddenly noticed something. She frowned and walked toward a piece of paper lying on the floor. As she bent down to pick it up, she muttered to herself, What's this paper? Feels expensive. The moment she opened it, Swana froze, huh? The paper read, "If you come back again, come find me." After reading it, she frowned and thought, when did this madman slip this in? Not long after, once she'd returned to the sanctuary, Swana worried that he was now certain she was regressing, so she didn't want to linger and risk dragging out the plot and delaying her escape. She threw the crumpled letter into the burning fireplace. Then she thought again, there's no time for this. She needed to get out of this damn novel as soon as possible. A memory from her past life suddenly surfaced in Swana's mind. In the middle of a sea of fire, her mother shouting, "Honey, where's Dahye? Did you get her out of the little room yet?" Her father answered, "Ah, I've got her already. You get out too. Hurry, quickly." At that, she suddenly snapped back to the present. Her hand clenched unconsciously. She had to go back. There was something she needed to ask her parents. With that, Swana muttered to herself, "The next place that needs purifying is Floriana, right?" She sat down and pried a brick loose with her hands, pulling out a few hidden essentials from behind it. While looking over a map, Swana recalled the chef once showing her the location of the sanctuary and the port of Floriana. She'd asked back then, "Wow, what's this dark patch here?" He'd looked at her, baffled. "You don't even know maritime symbols?" Swana had feigned innocence, But the sea is blue, though. The chef had patted her head. Then he'd smiled and said, "You find looking at maps interesting? I'll bring you more to look at bit by bit from now on." Swana had smiled brightly and said, "Really, I'm so happy, thank you," while thinking to herself, "Excellent, now I have a map." That was exactly why this map was now in her hands. The next day, the purification journey began once more. Swana walked slowly toward the sanctuary gate, suitcase in hand. Partway there, a voice called out, "Lady Swana." She turned around and called out in surprise, "Oh, Sir Malik." He ran over with a bright smile. "You're up so early." "Just thinking about accompanying such a devout sacred maiden on a purification trip already fills me with faith," Swana said with a fake smile. "Same here, Sir Malik. I'll be counting on your help today." Swana thought that if Malik got scared and ran off, she could use that chance to slip away, but on the surface she just cheered him on and let him carry her luggage. Just then, another voice rang out, "Malik, stop right there!" Walking over from a distance was none other than the person Swana despised most, the Grand Sacred Maiden. The woman continued, "The sacred knight accompanying Sacred Maiden Swana on today's purification is Michael Severino." Malik looked bewildered. "Huh? Not me?" Michael cut in, "That's right, there's been a change of plans." The Grand Sacred Maiden called out again, "Sacred Maiden Swana." She answered, "Yes, Grand Sacred Maiden." The woman added, "Floriana is a dark, gloomy place. I believe it would be more fitting for the commander himself to go personally." "That should be the right call, don't you think?" Seeing the smile on the woman's face, Swana suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. She quickly composed herself and bowed, saying, "Wherever I go or whoever I go with, I'm only ever carrying out my mission to spread Moandala's will." The Grand Sacred Maiden nodded, satisfied. "Then do your best on your next assignment. Sacred Maiden Swana." "Commander, escort Sacred Maiden Swana to the carriage right away." He answered respectfully, "Yes, Grand Sacred Maiden." A flicker of anger crossed Swana's eyes. She thought bitterly, that damned cult leader, with him along, escaping would be next to impossible. A while later in the carriage, Swana stared fixedly at the seat across from her. She thought, why on earth is he riding in the carriage with me instead of on horseback? This is so annoying. Noticing her stare, Michael asked, "Does my being here make you uncomfortable?" Swana quickly smiled and said, "No, it's actually more pleasant than traveling alone." He nodded. "I see. Then you're aware that a sacred knight's duty is to protect the sacred maiden, right?" Swana kept the smile on her lips. "Yes, but why do you ask?" Michael leaned in slightly. "That means they also serve at the same time as a kind of watchdog, making sure the sacred maiden can't run away." Swana hid the unease in her eyes and asked slowly, "But Sir Michael Severino, the phrase running away is usually used when escaping something negative, isn't it?" he asked, frowning. She shook her head, putting on an innocent expression. "But the sanctuary is a sacred place, isn't it?" "I don't think that choice of words is quite right." Michael paused for a few seconds, then leaned back against his seat. "You're right. The sanctuary is the home of the sacred maidens and a holy place devoted to serving the god. The reason I brought it up is that there have been cases before where, after a long journey, a sacred maiden and a sacred knight vanished together." Swana let out a cold laugh. Ah, so this cult isn't guarding against me trying to escape. They're worried about Malik seducing me and the two of us running off together. Do I really look like the type who'd fall for an idiot like that? Then she pretended to be outraged and exclaimed, "Sacred knights and sacred maidens are both children chosen by the god. It's unacceptable for their hearts to grow close and develop romantic feelings." Michael rubbed his chin thoughtfully. I share that view, Swana continued. Betraying the god's will is something that can never be forgiven. Michael added, they're no different from living demons of war. Therefore, we must hunt them down without mercy and destroy them with the holy sword. Swana propped her chin up with a smile, so that's how it is. Swana wondered to herself if she really ran away. Could she actually survive? Then she suddenly asked, now that I think of it, becoming a sacred knight commander at such a young age, did you want to be a sacred knight since childhood? Michael answered, when I was little, my parents abandoned me at the gates of the sanctuary, and thanks to that, I was raised under Moandala's protection. Swana replied, I see, as for me, my parents told me I had to become a sacred maiden, so that's how I ended up at the sanctuary. Hearing that, Michael fell into thought for a moment. Then he asked curiously, have you ever considered what it would be like not being a sacred maiden? Swana thought it over for a moment before answering, well, I'm content with my life as it is. Then she added, feigning surprise, oh, don't tell me you're not content with your life, Sir Michael Severino. He answered immediately, not at all, I believe this is my calling. She smiled and said, I feel the same way, while thinking to herself, what an admirable sacred knight. He looks only about 5 or 6 years older than me. How can his faith be so unshakable? Or has he simply been brainwashed? A few days later, at the port of Floriana, Michael led a group of alert knights forward. Among them was one man with his hands clasped in prayer. Oh, Moandala, Behind them, Swana looked around at ease. Smell of the sea. He'd once told her this place was a chaotic port town, but there wasn't a soul in sight. It was eerily quiet instead. Just then, Michael suddenly called out, Sacred Maiden Swana, can you sense the evil spirits too? She quickly composed herself, snapping back into character. Then she calmly declared this place was thick with evil energy and asked if she should begin the purification prayer right away. Michael's voice suddenly dropped low. Sacred Maiden, can't you hear the evil spirits screaming as if trying to tear your eardrums apart? Swana closed her eyes, hands clasped together with the utmost sincerity. All I can hear is the call of Moandala. He fell silent for a moment and said this was the heart of the village. Summoning all the evil spirits here would be difficult, even with a sacred maiden's power. Swana stepped forward calmly. Even so, Commander, I believe I must do what I can because that is my duty. Michael froze once more at her words. He turned and said, purification is important, but there's no need to put yourself in danger. Please follow me. Swana answered respectfully, yes, understood. The knights whispered praise for Swana, which secretly pleased her. Her performance as a sacred maiden was quite convincing. Not long after, Michael led her to a building. Once they stepped inside, the knights immediately began coughing violently. Swana couldn't help but feel suspicious. What's wrong with them? Is it just fatigue from the long journey? Just then, Michael spoke up too, Sacred Maiden. You may begin as soon as everything is ready. Swana nodded, yes, understood. As she knelt down, she thought to herself, now that she thought about it, even back in the carriage, he'd kept testing her. It seemed he suspected she couldn't actually see the so-called evil spirits. Fine then. She'd give him one grand purification performance, just muttering a few random scripture lines ought to do it. The moment she began chanting scripture, Michael suddenly shouted, everyone, hold your ground. The knights around them dropped to their knees, shouting loudly, Commander, if this keeps up. Seeing this, Michael immediately raised his hand. In the blink of an eye, he'd created a dome-shaped barrier covering the knights. Right after, the dome suddenly cracked and shattered. Michael frowned tightly and cried out, At the same moment, a shadowy figure appeared behind him. Sensing the malice, Michael spun around at once. The evil spirit was already right beside him. Michael instantly swung his sword, unleashing a slash of sword energy. His body followed through smoothly, slicing past the evil spirit. The knights behind him cried out in panic, Commander! Michael turned back and shouted, fall back! Protecting the sacred maiden is the top priority, hurry! The moment he finished, the entire room was suddenly bathed in warm light. Michael stared at Swana in shock. Across the room, she stood with her hands clasped tightly. Her whole body radiated holy light as she chanted the final line of the prayer, and Moandala answered, "My warrior, I am always by your side." The words finished and Swana stood up. She walked over to Michael. She spoke gently. Michael let out a soft gasp. Thinking inwardly, Swana is. She smiled and continued. The purification prayer is complete, Commander of the Sacred Knights, he thought. Dazed, a true sacred maiden. With the task complete, Swana boarded the carriage to head back to the sanctuary. On the way back, Michael kept riding close beside the carriage the entire time, which left Swana deeply irritated. Noticing Swana didn't look well, Michael suggested with concern, "Let's rest for a bit, you don't seem to be doing so well." Swana turned to him and answered, Yes, that would be good." Michael ordered the carriage to stop for a rest, and the knights obeyed. Swana thought to herself that she wasn't actually tired, just pressured by his constant staring. The carriage slowly came to a stop. Swana opened the door and stepped out. The moment her foot touched the step down, she caught sight of Michael's face. He smiled warmly and said, "The ground is wet there. Be careful not to slip when you step down." Swana reached out her hand. "Thank you, Commander." On the surface, she smiled. But inside, she muttered, "What a strange man. Does he care whether I'm okay even when I barely even try?" With that, she also walked to the edge of the forest to get some fresh air. At the same time, Michael was thinking, Sacred Maiden Swana, if his suspicion was correct in the near future. Swana stretched, wondering to herself, I really need to escape soon. Is there truly no other way? Michael continued thinking. She might end up inheriting the position of Grand Sacred Maiden, given how overflowing with devotion she was. Perhaps her power might even surpass the current Grand Sacred Maidens. At that thought, he suddenly snapped out of it. He asked himself in surprise, was his training so lacking that he'd start thinking such wicked thoughts, and reminded himself that only the Grand Sacred Maiden was the true voice of Moandala's loyal servants. Just then, a scream suddenly rang out, "Someone help me." "Please help me," Michael asked, startled. "What's going on?" "Calm down. What's wrong?" the disheveled woman shouted. "The person behind you? She's a high-ranking sacred maiden, isn't she? We need her prayer." Michael tried to calm her down. "Please, calm down. If you want a sacred maiden's prayer, you need to report to the sanctuary and wait your turn." The woman shouted, "But my child went out to play and still hasn't come home." As the woman lifted her head, the knights felt a chill run down their spines. Michael, too, stood frozen for a moment. He closed his eyes and let out a breath. Then he turned and asked, "What do you think, Sacred Maiden?" Swana calmly asked back. "About what?" Michael pointed at the woman. "We can't afford to delay much longer, but could we spare a little time to help her?" Swana frowned, looking bewildered. "Commander Michael, what exactly have you and the knights been doing this whole time?" He looked at her, baffled, Then he quickly spun around. Seeing the gap among the knights, Michael thought in alarm, "She's gone." He shouted urgently, "This is bad, Sacred Maiden Swana, run now." At the same moment, a somewhat deranged voice rang out from the shadows, save me again, please, Michael was suddenly lifted into midair by something. Then he was flung to one side. The instant he hit the ground, a hand clamped tightly around his throat. Michael began to struggle. He cried out, trembling, "Gah, stop!" Seeing this, Swana shouted, "Let go, Michael." "Why are you strangling yourself? Snap out of it." He gritted his teeth and thought, I'm strangling myself. Is this evil spirit showing the Sacred Maiden an illusion? Then Michael was lifted into the air again. He thought furiously, damn it, my body won't respond no matter how hard I try. If only I could pry this hand off. Just then, the sword hanging at his hip suddenly slipped and fell. Michael reached out a hand. He cried out in a panic, "Sword, sacred maiden, the sword." Swana answered, bewildered, "Right." She rushed over to pick up the sword. Holding it out with both hands here, just as she said this, Swana suddenly froze. She cried out in shock, "Michael!" She wondered to herself, what on earth is going on? Why is he doing this? Is he being controlled by an evil spirit? Wait, isn't this the perfect chance to escape? With that thought, she quietly stepped back. He was the man who had burned her at the stake over and over again. There wasn't a single reason she owed him a rescue. Not even one. Just then, a hand suddenly appeared behind her. Swana startled and spun around. Raphael spoke up too, Sacred Maiden. If you've already picked up the sword, you have to draw it. As he said this, he drew his own sword. With a single swift strike, the invisible evil spirit, unseen to Swanna's eyes, was cut clean in two. Michael immediately spat out a mouthful of black liquid. His body dropped to the ground. Eyes shut tight, he collapsed to one side, completely unconscious. Only then did Swanna react. Raphael. Hearing her call his name, he turned to look at her. A few seconds later, Michael let out a faint groan. Ugh! Raphael lifted his foot and kicked him once in the chest. Michael groaned again, his face pale with obvious pain, but still showing no sign of waking. Seeing this, Swanna couldn't help but startle. Did you kill them? Raphael answered nonchalantly. They're just unconscious. Hearing that, she let out a sigh. What on earth is going on here? Raphael couldn't help but ask curiously. I hear you've been wandering all over the place doing purification rituals. But is this the first time something like this has happened to you? Swanna nodded. Everything happened so fast. He burst out laughing. Seriously, are you actually a sacred maiden? You can't do anything right, and yet you keep going around purifying things. The moment he said that, a low growl of an evil spirit echoed from his hand. Raphael immediately gripped the hilt of his sword. His expression turned serious, in any case. Keep the fact that I got involved in this a secret from that rigid commander. Understood? At the same moment, a mist suddenly rose all around them, leaving Swanna stunned. Huh? When did this fog roll in? Seeing her looking around, Raphael asked again, Hey, Swanna, are you even listening to me? A moment later, Swanna suddenly dropped down and screamed at the top of her lungs. Ah! At that, even Raphael flinched, stammering, Hey, sacred maiden. What are you doing? Don't tell me you're afraid of fog. There's nothing here anymore. Are you possessed by something? In her panic, Swanna cried out, trembling, I'm here, Mom, Dad. Take me with you. It's so hot. Let me go. Take me with you. Save me. Watching her cry, clawing at the air in utter despair. Raphael froze for a moment. I understand, so let go now. As he said this, he grabbed her wrist. At the same moment, Swanna's hand suddenly burst with holy light. The entire space fell silent all at once, so much so that Raphael could hear the distant sound of a stream flowing. He thought in amazement, It's so peaceful. I've lived this life over hundreds of times. But I've never once felt the world this quiet before. Just as he sank into this rare, peaceful feeling, Swanna suddenly cried out, Ow, that hurts! Raphael snapped back to his senses at once. On instinct, he let go of her hand. Swanna went flying backward from the release, letting out a pained cry, Ow! Raphael walked over and asked indifferently, Feeling better? Swanna crawled up, gritting her teeth. Yes, completely clear-headed now, thanks to you. Then silence settled over them once more. After a long while, Raphael finally broke the silence. I've heard of Baron Hartwood's reputation for a long time, but you were severely abused since childhood. Swanna answered without thinking. My parents aren't people like that. Abuse, how ridiculous. Raphael looked at her in silence. Baron Hartwood's daughter was locked in the attic, denied any education, and rumor has it her family even sold her to the temple. He sighed. Mockingly, just a moment ago you were clinging to me, crying about the heat and begging to be taken outside. If it wasn't your parents, then you must have been mistreated at that precious temple of yours. Swanna denied remembering any of it and accused Raphael of being possessed. Raphael clicked his tongue. The one who was possessed is your comrade, attacked by the evil spirit. Only then did Swanna react. Oh, the knights, are they okay? Are they safe? He shrugged. Who knows? Why don't you go check for yourself whether they're alive or not? So Swanna rushed over to the knights. She called out loudly, Commander Severino, are you all right? Please wake up. Oh, Moandala, dear Lord, I can't believe you were so helpless before an evil spirit. I pray, if my prayer can reach the divine, please protect your loyal servant from evil. All who walk toward the light shall be guided by the divine. Watching her pray, Raphael suddenly thought, but wait, I was wrong, I shouldn't expect anything. She's no different from those useless sacred maidens, spending their whole lives clinging to meaningless scripture. After chanting for a while with no effect, Swanna turned and asked, Count, what should I do? Raphael frowned and asked back, What do you mean, they just fainted? Wait for them to wake up. She hesitated, but he snapped, That's enough. When the knights wake up, just tell them you resolved everything through prayer. Swanna asked, trembling, But I didn't actually do anything. Just now, Count Winters was clearly the one swinging his sword around, she said, gesturing wildly with her hands. Raphael lowered his voice. Just do as I say. He tilted her chin up and threatened her. If the temple contacts me about this, I will personally kill you. Hearing that, Swanna sucked in a sharp, cold breath. She quickly stepped back. Seeing that, Raphael fell silent for a moment too. Swanna huddled in the corner like that. After a long while, she peeked over at the spot where he'd been standing. Seeing no one there, Swanna sighed in relief. He's finally gone. That was close. Almost got dragged into that walking disaster, she thought. If I play dumb enough, he'll get bored and leave. And just as she'd predicted. By the way, what exactly is he even doing all the way out here? This isn't even his territory. No. Don't be curious, stay far away from the male lead. Swanna told herself she couldn't afford to get tangled up with Raphael. It would only drag out the plot. She wanted him to reach his ending quickly so she could escape the novel. Swanna put her head down and ran, just run. In her rush, not watching where she was going, Swanna tripped over something. And that something turned out to be none other than Michael. Seeing this, she couldn't help but cry out in alarm, "Wait!" Then he threw a kick at her and shouted, "Get out of the way!" After dodging his attack, Swanna sank down, deep in thought. I've been thinking about this for a while now. But shouldn't I be exempt from legal responsibility if I kill this guy? Do you know how many times he's burned me alive already? In her mind, an angelic Swanna nodded along. Exactly. How am I supposed to know he won't drag me back to the stake again in this life? Swanna added. That's exactly my point, another angelic Swanna asked. But nothing's happened to Michael in this life, right? She nodded. That's true. Wait, are you an angel too? That angelic Swanna shouted. If you keep running away like this, by the time Michael wakes up, you won't just be a fugitive sacred maiden anymore. You'll be wanted for attempted murder too. Swanna scratched her ear. Right? That's also true. The other angel said, but if you don't run right now, who knows if you'll get another chance? Swanna wondered whether Raphael had already dealt with the demon, quietly suspecting she was just imagining things, since one of the angels looked rather dangerous. Hearing a groan, Swanna realized in alarm that he was waking up earlier than planned. Both angels vanished, and she decided to leave, letting him fend for himself. Elsewhere, a brown-haired knight sat up. Ugh, my head. Swanna pressed her lips together, her plan for a clean escape shattered, her expression darkening slightly. The brown-haired knight helped his comrade up, lifting his head to call out, Commander, Sacred Maiden, thank goodness, you're both safe. After a moment's thought, Swanna slipped back into character. I prayed to the god to protect you both from danger. Please have mercy and save us, I prayed to Moandala with all my heart. Seeing the holy light radiating from her, the two knights immediately dropped to their knees. Sacred Maiden Swanna. She continued crying out, Oh, Moandala, and at that same moment Michael came to. The brown-haired knight thanked her for saving them, and Swanna humbly deflected the praise, though inwardly she found it all bothersome and wanted nothing more to do with it. The brown-haired knight continued, Since the commander is awake, let's prepare to head out. The blue-haired knight beside him added, Sacred Maiden, please rest. Swanna smiled and said, Thank you. Not far away. Michael leaned back against a boulder, lost in thought. After a long while, he suddenly asked, Hey, Sacred Maiden, what exactly happened? My head hurts terribly. Swanna panicked and quickly made up a story that he'd hit his own head and lost his memory. Michael paused, not just my throat, but the back of my head too. To stop Michael from thinking any further, she patted his shoulder. Commander Michael Severino. Don't try to remember those painful moments. On the surface, she said the pain was nothing compared to the joy of returning to the god, but inwardly she just hoped he'd forget she'd kicked him. Michael called out gratefully, Sacred Maiden Swanna. He stood up and bowed respectfully. Thank you for risking yourself to save me from the evil spirit. Swanna shook her head slightly. It's nothing. Helping others is my duty. She suddenly remembered what Michael had said at the start of their journey. That's right. The temple is the home of the sacred maidens and a sacred ground devoted to serving the divine. The reason I brought that up is because there have been cases of a sacred maiden and a knight vanishing together during long missions. The corner of her mouth curled up. Ah, right, there's that method too. With that, Swanna tore a strip from her own sleeve. Then, she handed it to Michael. Commander, this is for you. Wrap it around your neck, the swelling should go down faster. Michael's face flushed slightly. He stammered, Sacred Maiden, I can manage on my own. Swanna shook her head, but you're injured. You got hurt like this protecting me. Michael's face turned even redder. I get injuries like this all the time during training. This is nothing compared to that. Swana suddenly placed her hand on his forehead. Oh dear, Commander. It seems you're starting to run a fever too. Your face is burning red and hot. Michael's gaze suddenly went completely rigid. He turned away to hide his embarrassment. I'm fine, Sacred Maiden. Thank you for your concern. I'll handle the rest myself. While Swana stepped back, thinking she shouldn't provoke him any further. This fanatical zealot might just decide she was a witch and burn her alive to stay safe. She needed to make him confess his feelings first. She took a few steps back, then pretended to trip, huh? Michael startled and asked, Sacred Maiden, are you all right? Swana answered, I think I've sprained my ankle. He quickly knelt down. Let me take a look. She cried out, Ow! He reached out and took hold of her leg. Does it hurt when I press here? Swana didn't answer, just let out a cry. Michael asked again, What about here? She cried out, that spot too. After finishing the examination, he pulled his hand back. It seems quite badly sprained. Sacred Maiden? If you keep it like this, I can't examine the wound properly. Swana looked bashful, but Commander, I'm a little embarrassed since my leg is bare. Michael froze and blurted out, his face instantly turning bright red, as if he were about to burst into steam. He shot up to his feet and said loudly, I apologize. That sudden burst of motion stirred up a gust of wind, blowing the hem of Swana's skirt up. Michael went rigid. Then he jabbed 2 fingers into his own eyes. At the same time, he shouted, I didn't see anything. Watching his retreating back, Swana thought to herself, Stop fighting your instincts already, and just say you want to run away with me. Together, or something. Who would have thought she'd have to work this hard to seduce the very man who had burned her to death multiple times? Her situation was pathetic to the point of pity. Even she had only gone through about 10 regressions so far and was already this exhausted and irritable. So how unbearable must it have been for him? Living an entire life where no matter what he did, there was never any hope of moving forward. Swana realized this hopeless existence made her understand, and even sympathize with, Raphael's decision to destroy himself. She let out a breath and murmured softly, Truly, how pitiful. The moment she said it, a voice suddenly rang out, And just who are you calling pitiful? Swana froze, looking up at the figure soaking in the lake. Seeing her not answer, Raphael called out again, Sacred Maiden Swana. I didn't know your hobby was peeping on people while they bathe. After a moment of stunned silence, you 4-eyed pervert, get away from me. No, not that. Don't shove your chest that close to my face. Raphael raised an eyebrow, helpless. My eyes, what? Just then, Swana suddenly tripped. She actually tripped and fell, crying out in a panic, Wait. She kept falling and getting back up like that, tripping a total of 3 times. Raphael watched for a while, at a loss for words, and stepped up onto the shore. By then, Swana had settled down in one spot, holding her leg and muttering, That hurts. Faking an injury really did backfire on her. Raphael put his shirt on, buttoning it as he asked, Why are you still hiding alone in the forest? Swana lowered her head and answered, I was just out for a walk, no need to worry, while secretly sighing in relief inwardly. Seems like I'm still in the clear. Just then, Raphael suddenly reached out his hand. He said calmly, Stop grumbling and get up already. The air between them suddenly fell silent. Looking at the hand held out in front of her, Swana's eyes were filled with suspicion. After a moment of hesitation, Raphael suddenly let out a sigh. Then he grabbed her hand directly and pulled her up. Swana startled and cried out, She glared at him. Raising her voice, she said, Hey, I could have gotten up myself. Raphael spread his arms wide, asking reluctantly, Are you taking your anger out on me? Did something not go your way? Swana closed her eyes uneasily and answered, I have nothing to say to a pervert who bathes stark naked out in a lake. Raphael froze. Pervert. Ha. You think you're the only one qualified to seduce a sacred knight? Swana startled and shouted, What? No, I've never done anything like that. Raphael frowned and asked, Can't you see, right now, right beside you? A whole crowd of ghosts are babbling away to me. Listen, Swana asked in surprise. Ghosts? You can see them? She thought to herself, being able to see ghosts all the time like that is extremely rare. Raphael pressed his lips together and continued, I don't know what kind of perverted thing you did with that man, but the ghosts are shrieking that you seduced him. Is it even proper for a sacred maiden to have feelings for a knight? You put on such a pious act, I actually thought you at least followed the rules. Swana suddenly lowered her voice. Tell me, confused, he asked back. What? She shouted loudly. Tell me what they're saying. What are the ghosts saying? Raphael asked, astonished. You've really forgotten already. I don't care about that man at all. Swana immediately played her final card. If you don't tell me, I'll spread the word that you're a pervert who likes exposing himself outdoors. Something inside Raphael felt like it exploded. He lifted his chin and gave a scornful laugh. I misjudged you. I had no idea you were this unhinged. Swana, sensing a glimmer of hope, said, Tell me, what are the ghosts beside me saying? So you're not going to tell me, Count? The fact that you can see ghosts is a secret, isn't it? I won't tell a soul. Oh, and the fact that you're a pervert who likes exposing himself in public, too. So, please just tell me. After she kept pleading, Raphael actually answered, There's nothing special to it. You just need to smile and react naturally whenever your eyes meet his. Swana asked, worked up, what kind of smile? Like this. Seeing the smile on her face, Raphael suddenly froze. He pressed his lips together slightly, frowning as though recalling some unpleasant memories. Then he turned and said, Forget it. Go practice your expressions on your own. I'm leaving. Swana scoffed. You're really cruel. Raphael flat out ignored her and walked silently deeper into the forest. She shouted after him, Seriously, I'm fine being alone too. Let's never meet again. She sighed in relief that she'd run into him by chance, then thought that if she went back, she'd follow the ghost's advice and try a seductive smile on Michael. Just then, his voice rang out too. What are you doing out here? I couldn't find you anywhere, so I've been looking for you for a while. Swana covered her mouth and gave a bashful laugh. Ah, sorry. I just came out for some fresh air, saw the lake, and wandered over to take a look. He suddenly turned serious. Sacred maiden Swana, have you forgotten you're not allowed to go outside the temple alone? She frowned, her voice tinged with anger. Why? Is it because you think I'll run away? She thought to herself. I must be out of my mind. Going through all this trouble to deceive this man just to escape? How absurd. And on top of that, planning to do it with a monster who's constantly waiting for the chance to burn her alive. At that thought, she suddenly snapped, Commander, do you see sacred maidens as criminals? Why are you suffocating me like this? Michael remained calm. I don't see you as a prisoner. I'm protecting you. It's dangerous outside the temple. Swana let out a scornful laugh. Oh, really, if anything, I'm in far more danger with you constantly threatening to kill me. Treating people who leave the temple in search of freedom as witches and killing them, is that really the God's will? Where in the scriptures does it say that? He answered, My orders are to eliminate evil. I'm only doing what needs to be done. Swana asked angrily, Who told you to do that, Moandala, or the Grand Sacred Maiden? Michael's gaze suddenly turned cold. He gripped the hilt of his sword, Sacred Maiden Swana. It seems that going out alone has left you bewitched by something. Unlike before, it seems you've now abandoned the divine. I knew this would happen eventually. Swana startled inwardly, damn it. She couldn't believe she'd been foolish enough to let her guard slip in front of Michael. She'd been so angry she'd said far too much. Hey, why did he suddenly draw his sword? Wait, is he skipping the stake this time and just executing me on the spot? Since things had come to this, she might as well try everything. But looking at him, she said, Don't you understand why I long for freedom so desperately? Don't you really know what kind of freedom I dream of? Michael took a step closer. Tricks like that won't work on me, Sacred Maiden Swana. She lowered her head, her voice dropping. You're testing me. It's you, Michael Severino. Michael suddenly stopped in his tracks. The air between them seemed to hang still. Seeing this, Swana quietly let out a breath. Could this surprise confession actually be working? Just then, Michael suddenly lifted his chin and sighed. Sacred Maiden Swana, she answered. Yes. He looked away, his eyes betraying a hint of avoidance. I will pretend I never heard what you just said. I'll head back first, Swana quickly called after him. Wait, Commander. Hearing her call out, Michael only picked up his pace as if he were fleeing. Once he'd disappeared behind the trees, Swana finally let out a breath. Ha! Escaped that one for now. She thought quietly. She'd managed to throw Michael off for the moment, but if she just went back to the temple like this. Once Michael came to his senses, he would surely find a way to kill her, she thought, recalling a certain past regression. Michael had drawn his sword and said, O Moandala, please forgive this sinful child, who has been possessed by an evil spirit. Swana made up her mind things had gone this far already. Her role as the gentle, obedient sacred maiden was over for this life. She ran straight into the forest, into the area marked as dangerous. Under the full moon, Swana looked at the marked cloth on the tree trunk. Is this what it feels like to be possessed by a ghost? Exhausted and out of breath, she wondered how long she'd been wandering in circles. Leaning against the tree trunk, Swana sighed bitterly. Damn it, I'm so thirsty, and my legs hurt too. Suddenly there was a sound behind her. Swana wondered, what is that sound? Then she realized happily. It was the sound of a stream flowing. She rushed toward it, thinking as she ran, water always flows downhill. I don't want to be burned alive again. If I follow the direction the water flows, I want to go home. I should be able to get down the mountain this way. As she ran aimlessly toward the sound of the stream, she suddenly remembered a childhood trip to a valley with her parents. Swana called out softly, Mom, Dad? It must have been not long after she was adopted. That day, while she was playing in the park, a little child suddenly fell right beside her. She looked around for a moment. Then she went over to help the little girl up, and at that same moment a voice of praise rang out. You even help a friend you've only just met. Ardaya really is such a good child. Back then she'd answered anyone would do the same, and every time I'm called a good child, it makes me so happy. Because that was exactly why she'd found her parents. That day, a teacher from the orphanage had brought a couple over. Dahye was the most mature and well-behaved child at the center. The two of them had said in turn, So you're Dahye. It's so nice to meet you. Dahye, would you like to come live with us? Back then, feeling unsure of herself, she'd answered, But I'm already 6 years old. The other adults had said that she'd already missed the ideal age. The couple had paused for a moment, then said gently, If we had a biological child, they'd probably be about your age too. Dahye, 6 is even better. She'd asked hesitantly, So, can I become your daughter? The two of them had quickly taken her hands. Do you really want that? Good girl, Dahye. Thank you for becoming our child. From now on, you'll call us Mom and Dad, won't you? Mom, Dad, Dahye? Happy days followed. The happy days passed quickly until one day she happened to walk past the couple's room. The woman was holding a pregnancy test in her hand, and the two of them embraced, saying, The three of us like this will be a family forever. Hearing that, her eyes suddenly went hollow, the three of them. Then what about me? At that, Swana suddenly slammed her head into the tree she'd marked earlier. She fell backward, shaking her head to clear it. A few seconds later, Swana gritted her teeth. That scene felt so vivid. Was it a hallucination? It hurt so much. Looking at the tree in front of her, she startled. Wait, why have I ended up back at this same tree? I definitely followed the sound of the water. Just then, the surroundings suddenly went dark. Something appeared in front of Swana, laughing as it called out, Sweetie. Sweetie T, sweetie, are you trying to leave? She fled in terror, her heart pounding with fear. She'd traveled all over as a sacred maiden, but she had never once actually seen a ghost, let alone heard one. In her haste, Swana tripped again. She fell flat on the ground. Panting as she got back up, she heard the voice calling out again. She covered her ears, thinking furiously, Damn ghost, go away, I said go away. Just then, Raphael's voice suddenly rang out, Go away and stop the noise if you don't want to die. Oh wait, you're already dead, aren't you? Swana got up, bewildered. This rude way of talking, could it be? As she looked around, Raphael spoke again. So what? None of my business. Go away. That swollen face of yours is disgusting to look at. Swana let out a cry of relief, hearing the sound. He turned to look over. At that moment, Swana also came rushing over. She burst into tears like a child, sobbing as she called out, Raphael Winters? He broke into a sweat and shouted, What is it? You still haven't left? Swana quickly grabbed his hand, and at that exact moment, a spark of light appeared between their two hands. The moment Raphael saw that light, his whole body froze. Deep inside, he felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. Swana pleaded desperately, Count, please help me. You were just talking to a ghost, weren't you? There's some strange creature clinging to me, making gurgling noises too. With that, Swana blinked several times as if just waking from a dream. She stammered and pulled her hand back. Raphael, Count Winters. Just then, Raphael suddenly grabbed her hand. Wait a moment. Stay right there, let me think for a second. At that moment, a sudden gust of wind blew past. He lifted his face, murmuring to himself, The wind is blowing, and there's the smell of grass too. Swana hesitated. Well, that's probably because we're in the forest. A few seconds later, Raphael suddenly uttered 3 words. It's too quiet. Swana stood there dazed, right, wondering to herself, what is he muttering about? Is he actually communicating with a spirit? The moment that thought crossed her mind, Raphael regained his composure. He frowned and asked, "Who are you?" Swana thought it over briefly and answered, "A sacred maiden." He shot her a glare at once. "You think that's what I'm asking?" Swana said, flustered. "Then how should I answer to satisfy you?" Sorry for grabbing your hand, but can we talk after you let go of me?" Raphael was wondering to himself, this world is strange, unnaturally still, yet somehow both sacred and beautiful. Is that why my vision seems to shimmer so brilliantly? He leaned in closer, repeating the question, "Who exactly are you?" Swana shook her head and answered, "I don't understand what you're talking about." At the same moment, Michael's furious voice rang out again. "What exactly is going on here right now?" As he spoke, his face darkened as he stepped closer. Swana thought in alarm, "Damn it, I've been caught," and tried to talk her way out of it. "Commander." Before she could finish, Michael narrowed his eyes. "Sacred maiden Swana." Desertion is a serious crime, not to mention having contact with an outsider without permission. Swana said, her voice trembling, "This was just a coincidence. He turned to Raphael instead, "Count Winters. Release the sacred maiden." He gave a scornful laugh. "If I release her, you'll take her away. She'll go back and be burned alive on charges of witchcraft, won't she?" Swana whispered in alarm, "Why are you provoking him for no reason?" Sure enough, Michael drew his sword. "If you do not release sacred maiden Swana, Count, in the name of the divine I will execute you, and naturally the same applies to sacred maiden Swana, for the crime of deserting on her own to meet you." Ah, and by now she probably can't even be considered a sacred maiden anymore. Raphael burst out laughing. "Haha, so you're willing to kill anyone at all. How ruthless of you." It seems the Temple of Moandala is built on a mountain of corpses. Hearing such blasphemy, Michael gritted his teeth and snarled, "How dare you insult the divine like that?" His sword blade struck at once, but Raphael calmly parried it, while Swana pulled herself into his chest and yelped, "Hey, Count, sir, can't you put me down before you two start fighting?" Raphael pressed his lips together and stepped back, then lifted his foot and kicked Michael squarely. He was sent flying backward at once, clutching his chest and groaning as he struggled to get up. Only then did Raphael speak. "Look, Swana, if we kill this rigid man here, it'll only cause more trouble." She asked curiously, "Why?" He shrugged. "A mob of fanatics would hunt us down to catch whoever killed the Knight Commander, wouldn't they?" She thought it over and answered, "That's true." Seeing this, Michael said, "It seems both of you have been completely taken over by evil spirits." Swana couldn't help but sigh inwardly. "What should I do now? Is there still any way to salvage this?" Raphael suddenly said, "But I can't let him take you away either." "You're afraid of fire, aren't you?" Swana startled slightly. "What, me? Is he actually talking to me now?" At the same moment, Michael charged forward again. Raphael parried the blow while muttering, "Maybe starting over would be better this time." Swana, not quite catching it, asked, "Huh, what did you just say?" Raphael pushed her behind him and said, "There'll be a next time, so don't be afraid." Swana cried out, bewildered, "A next time?" Just then, Raphael slipped right past Michael. He leapt straight down into the ravine. At the same time, he turned and smiled. "See you again, sacred maiden." Swana stared, stunned, and called out, "Raphael!" Swana screamed, "Raphael!" The moment she blinked, she was back in her room. That day, Iroh repeated the same line once again. "It's your turn to clean up today." Swana sat up thinking, "Ah, so that's how it is?" Seeing her unresponsive, Iroh tugged her arm. "Hey, are you even listening to me?" Swana was still thinking, "I didn't die, yet I've come back to this exact same moment again. I thought there'd be some kind of rule or complicated condition to it." She didn't answer, so Iroh shouted again, "What's wrong with you? Faking sick just to avoid cleaning?" Swana was still lost in thought. Raphael Winters, if the male lead dies, I'll probably get pulled back in time along with him, like some kind of package deal. Once she'd thought it through, she said, "Sorry, Iroh. Something urgent has come up." Seeing her run for the door, Iroh cried out in surprise, "Hey, Swana!" Out in the hallway, Swana thought as she ran, this was also the longest she'd survived so far. Seeing her running through the halls in her nightgown, the novice sacred maidens gossiped, criticizing her clothes and behavior as improper. Swanna paid no mind to any of it, inwardly cursing furiously. Raphael, that bastard, deserves to be torn apart. At the Sacred Knight's training grounds, Swanna ran in shouting, "Sir Malik," a knight asked curiously. "Is that the sacred maiden you know?" Malik glanced over and shook his head. "Huh, no." Swanna paid that no mind and pulled him straight outside. "Sir Knight, come here for a moment." Malik cried out in surprise, "Sacred maiden?" Once they were outside the training grounds, Swanna shoved him against the wall, leaving Malik bewildered. "Huh?" she said loudly. "Sir Malik, I like you, I love you. Please run away with me." Malik stood frozen. What did you just say, huh? You just said? If they hadn't gotten lost in the mountains that time, Raphael wouldn't have thrown himself into such a pointless death. "What do you mean starting over? There'll be a next time, so don't be surprised." He seemed to think she was the kind of sacred maiden with so much free time she could happily travel through time with him for fun. But she needed to get back to her parents, who were surely worried about her, as soon as possible. They must be worried absolutely sick by now. Definitely. Before the mark of the supreme sacred maiden had been etched onto her hand, back when she was still just a lowly sacred maiden nobody paid attention to, her plan to seduce an easily manipulated knight and then run away had succeeded perfectly. It had been over a month since they'd run away, and they still hadn't been caught. As soon as they reached port, she'd abandon Malik and go into hiding until the novel's story reached its end. The plan was flawless, but Swanna felt annoyed anyway. Good grief, this man talks way too much. Meanwhile, Malik cried out, "Please, my beloved Swanna," she asked, stunned. "Huh? What? What are you talking about?" He smiled and said, "I want to know everything about the woman who will spend the rest of her life with me. Will you tell me about yourself?" Swanna covered her mouth with a soft laugh. There's really nothing interesting to tell, while thinking to herself, I don't actually know anything about the real Swanna's life besides some rumors, so I'd better avoid this. But then, Malik kept looking at her with an expression that said, "If you don't tell me, I'll just keep staring at you for the rest of my life." Swanna thought helplessly. "Guess I'll have to make something up," then she said, "I used to be very lonely. Sometimes, I imagined myself as a princess locked away in a tower. Believing a brave knight would come to rescue me made things easier to bear." At that, Swanna suddenly burst out laughing, "Ha ha. And sometimes I'd hope the birth parents who abandoned me would come back looking for me." Malik asked in surprise, "Oh, you mean the Heartwood family, the ones who left you at the temple?" Swanna nodded, lying, "Yeah, that's them." The moment she said it, an explosion suddenly rang out from the starboard side of the ship. The captain and sailors startled in alarm. "What's going on? There's a warship firing cannons at us." Luckily, it missed. The shot just landed in the water. Hearing that, Swanna thought to herself, I knew it. Whenever things go too smoothly, something's bound to go wrong. Malik pulled her close, frowning. What the hell are those pirates? At the same time, a strangely familiar voice rang out from the sea. Swanna. She immediately turned to look. That hateful voice, could it be? A moment later, the two ships pulled alongside each other, and Raphael stepped onto the deck and shouted, "Come out, Swanna! Just hand her over to me and I'll leave right away." Swanna's face darkened as she thought, shouldn't that man be at his title ceremony right about now? The passengers on board murmured in confusion. Could that be the one who achieved those terrifying feats in the war, Count Winters? Why is he here? Raphael stepped up to the captain. Are you the captain? A young woman with long silver-purple hair answered, Just hand her over to me and I'll leave at once. Hiding nearby in a pile of straw, Malik asked in surprise, Swanna, is he looking for you? She quickly gestured for him to stay quiet if he didn't want to die. Raphael shouted loudly, I know you're hiding there. Come out now. You know I can sense exactly where you are. Swanna looked up at the sky, gritting her teeth and glaring. Did someone rat me out? You cowards. Malik couldn't help but feel afraid. Honey, who are you talking to? She paused. I don't even know myself. Stay here. Don't go outside, she said, then stood up. Malik nodded. Okay. Seeing her appear, Raphael held out his hand. Come here. Couldn't even wait a few days before causing trouble again, could you? The captain quickly cut in. Wait, is this the person you're looking for? Count, she boarded this ship saying she was traveling with her husband. Raphael let out a scornful laugh. What did you say, husband? Don't make me laugh. Malik immediately rushed forward to set the record straight. This is no joke. We're in love. I absolutely will not hand her over to you. Swana thought to herself, hey, don't push it. The passengers on the ship began whispering again. I heard nobles like meddling with other men's wives, but it seems she boarded this ship to escape him. Hearing that, Raphael let out a sharp laugh. Would you cut the act already? Are you seriously trying to tell me a sacred maiden and a knight who ran away from the temple together are husband and wife? The mood on the ship instantly shifted. Sacred maiden, how dare a traitor to the divine board our ship? Swana went pale. I told you to stay put. Why did you come out here? Malik stammered. I didn't think things would turn out like this. Everyone, please just hear us out for a moment. Before he could even finish, the crowd shouted, we don't need to hear anything. Drag them off the ship now. A group quickly restrained Malik. He cried out, wait, let go, sacred maiden Swana. She too was seized by a few burly men. Ah, that hurts. Hearing her scream, Malik struggled wildly. Wait. Swana? Hearing his desperate cry, Swana suddenly froze. Are they actually going to throw him overboard? Why? Just because she'd run away? Were they really going to destroy everyone around her for something this senseless? All because she'd chosen them. Raphael stepped forward. I'm taking her with me. Stop being so stubborn. Give it up already. Swana said stubbornly. I'm not crazy. There's no way I'm going with you. Raphael gave a cold laugh. Where do you think you can even run to from here? The moment he saw her climb over the ship's railing, he couldn't help but look stunned, huh? Damn it. By the time Raphael rushed over, Swana had already jumped into the sea. He spun around and shouted, What are you all doing? Lower the lifeboat, stop the ship, and pull her up. A sailor shrugged. Why should we save a sacred maiden who betrayed the divine and chose death herself? Raphael gritted his teeth in fury. Damn it. He tore off his coat right there and dove straight into the sea. Breaking through the white foam, Raphael saw countless arms rising up from the depths of the ocean. He wove his way through them, looking east then west. Finally, he spotted Swana's figure not far away. Raphael immediately pulled her up to the surface. Swana, sacred maiden, answer me. Open your eyes. Breathe. Seeing her unresponsive, he shouted furiously, Damn it. If this sacred maiden dies, then this life of mine will be no different from all the ones before it. I'll have to start all over again. Then Raphael deliberately let himself sink beneath the ocean. It's fine. I just need to be more careful next time once again. When I finally end this tedious life, a life I've repeated so many times I've lost count, I return to some undetermined point in the past. Under falling rain, a man lifted a wooden box. Huh? Even so, it had been quite a while since I'd returned to this exact moment, looking at the bloody scars on my hand. The man shouted, How could anyone do something so cruel to a newborn baby? Raphael, is that the child's name? Come, let's go home. This time I've gone back quite far. This man, Ethan Winters, barely managed to keep a blacksmith's forge running under dire poverty. When she saw him bring Raphael home, his wife shouted, Then if you want to raise him yourself. I won't lay a single finger on that child. The woman glaring at me with such contempt was his wife, Maria. She neglected and mistreated me whenever Ethan was away. But to me, someone who had already lived through far worse, that hardly counted as suffering. But my calm demeanor only frightened Maria more. You don't cry, you don't laugh either. How disturbing. As the dull years of childhood passed by to kill time, that moment finally arrived, he said seriously. Please don't drink tonight. Ethan asked in surprise, Raphael, what are you talking about? He answered, You might fall and hurt your leg. Even Ethan, the man who had taken me in, wouldn't listen to a mere child like me. So that accident kept repeating itself every single time. But I didn't give up. I kept trying. So he changed his approach. Today, please go outside and don't come home. By this point, Ethan had already lost a leg. He frowned and asked, Why? Raphael didn't answer and simply added, But don't sleep out on the street either. Ethan fell silent, saying nothing. In the previous life, he'd been beaten to death by bandits out on the street. So if I said this, at least he'd go find an inn this time. Inside the room, Maria shouted, Hey, Raphael, why isn't the cleaning done yet? He watched Ethan's retreating back in silence. From now on, I'll have to find my own way to survive. The next day, a flock of crows descended on the wooden house. When Ethan returned, he choked back a sob at the sight of the house completely collapsed. After searching through the wreckage, Ethan cried out, "Ah!" Maria, the children, just then. Raphael came limping back from the distance, leaning on a cane. They were attacked by bandits. I thought that if I ambushed them from behind, I might be able to overpower them. But my current strength was still too weak. I couldn't do it alone. Ethan suddenly lunged at him. "You! Did you already know this would happen? Is that why you told me to go outside? Why did you only save me? Why are you the only one still alive? You're a demon. I should have destroyed you long ago." If only I'd listened to Maria. In the middle of his screaming, he suddenly slipped and fell backward. Oh! Ethan's head slammed straight into the edge of the debris. Blood poured out and his life came to an end there. Raphael said calmly, "I'm sorry, Ethan Winters. I met a strange sacred maiden and thought this time might turn out differently, but I never expected you to die from a fall like that. The next time I return to this moment, I'll try a different way to save you." Coming back to this particular point is quite rare, so I still haven't grown tired of it. Rest for now, I still have a great deal to prepare for this lifetime. Who knows how many years later, at the Heartwood estate, a servant asked curiously, "Who are you?" Raphael answered with a warm smile, "I am Raphael Winters, Knight Commander under Marcus Hoover Baker. I apologize for the sudden visit, but might I speak with Baron Heartwood?" She ducked back inside. "Please wait a moment." Before long, noise erupted from within. "Sir, ma'am, the Knight Commander under Marquis Hoover Baker is here." "What? I've never borrowed money from the Marquis. Does he look like a debt collector?" "No, not at all. He's a well-dressed gentleman and quite handsome, too." "Really? Honey, have we hidden all the daughters yet? Who should we use to receive him? Except for the one he suspected was born of an affair and threw into the temple, we've married off all the rest already." Hearing that, Raphael let out a sigh. The arguing inside kept going. "What? You said you got pregnant after I came back from my business trip? You idiot, don't you know how to count? I've told you countless times it was before you left." Just then, Raphael pushed the door open and stepped inside. "Excuse me?" Amid the sudden silence, he smiled and said, "Baron Heartwood, it's an honor to meet you. I am Raphael Winters." He answered awkwardly, "Ah, yes, I am Baron Frank Heartwood. An honor. This is my wife, Judy Heartwood." She gave an awkward laugh, too. "Haha, so nice to meet you." Frank quickly changed the subject. "So you serve under Marquis Baker. What brings you here today?" Raphael said plainly, "You have a daughter who was sent to the temple instead of being married off. Please allow me to marry that young lady." Frank exclaimed in shock. "Wah! What? What exactly are you talking about?" He answered, "Once someone becomes a sacred maiden, it's very difficult to leave the temple through ordinary means. However, I've heard that if the family shows enough sincerity, it can be undone." Seeing the pile of treasure he'd brought, both Frank and Judy froze. Oh my. This alone still isn't nearly enough to take away the daughter we worked so hard to raise. Raphael took the badge off his chest. "I have far more than this." "Please accept it, Father," Frank exclaimed excitedly. "Oh, how very considerate of you. Our daughter will surely be happy. I'll go bring her back right away. Just trust me and wait." Judy clutched the jeweled mirror tightly, muttering, "Just how much is this worth exactly?" Raphael suddenly recalled Swana's words. "My parents aren't people like that. Abuse. How ridiculous." "How naive, you really do have this stubbornly foolish side to you," he said. "Then, I'll wait for word from you then." Not long after, Swana was brought out and even delivered straight to Raphael's estate. Judy said, "Once we're inside, be sure to act with the utmost courtesy and humility." She answered respectfully, "Yes," though deep down she was utterly confused. What is even going on? Nothing like this had ever happened before. A few days earlier, while Swana was sweeping the temple grounds, Judy had suddenly barged in. "My beautiful daughter, I've come to take you home." It happened so suddenly that Swana asked, bewildered, Who are you?" Swana figured this was the first time meeting her parents, but since they'd been let in, it had to be real, while also wondering about the man she'd never met who had already proposed to her. "Thank you so much for getting me out of that damned cult." Once inside, Judy suddenly exclaimed, "Sir Knight, have you been waiting long?" The moment she saw Raphael, the gratitude that had just welled up in her chest vanished instantly. "Huh?" She widened her eyes and shouted, "This crazy stalker!" Frank slammed the table and snapped, "You brat, how dare you speak that way to the Knight Commander?" Swana immediately spun around and ran. "Forget it. Don't come looking for me again." Judy, caught off guard, stammered after her, "Swanna." Frank panicked too, that disrespectful girl, while Raphael stood up and said, "Please wait a moment." Meanwhile, Swanna had nearly reached the gate, cursing inwardly. "That madman, is he actually insane? Why does he keep following me? Just go find your own ending to the novel already." The instant that thought crossed her mind, Raphael appeared right beside her. "You'd best not waste your energy." Swanna blurted out in shock, "That fast?" Right after, she was swept up into Raphael's arms. After a moment of dazed silence, she shouted furiously, "Let me go, you jerk," he said calmly. "I'll let go if you promise to come along quietly." Frank was shocked to see Raphael carrying Swanna like luggage. She protested. "Are you out of your mind?" Raphael answered. "I'll handle the wedding matters myself. No need to worry." Frank suddenly spoke up. "Listen here, Lord Winters, still. If you carry off your bride-to-be like this, like some kind of kidnapping, what will people think of our family's reputation?" Hearing that, Raphael's expression turned cold at once. "I didn't expect people like you to actually care about reputation. Compared to people like you who locked up a child and threw her into the temple, I will make sure she lives a far happier life. So, from now on, stay out of my wife's business." In a certain house, Swanna frowned and pressed him, "Tell me, why exactly are you so set on marrying me? From what I can tell, you've been planning this for a very long time." Raphael glanced over at her. "If I tell you, will you stop trying to run away?" She nodded. "Fine, I'm listening. Let's see just how grand your reason turns out to be." The air in the room suddenly fell silent enough that Swanna grew suspicious. Only then did Raphael utter 3 words, "I need you. Even if I have to go through this damned loop dozens more times, I still want to keep you by my side." Swanna turned pale and snapped, "What, you absolute lunatic?" Raphael smiled and asked, "So you're done pretending to be shy now?" "Yeah, you're right. I am a lunatic. If you want to die, then go ahead and die. Because I will hunt you down to the very end." Swanna answered seriously, "Let me tell you now. I have absolutely no interest in getting tangled up with you. I have no intention whatsoever of living with you." Hearing that, Raphael gave a cold little laugh. "You're actually in love with that idiot sacred knight, aren't you?" Swanna frowned. "Could you please stop talking about a man who died at sea because of you? I suspected as much, but you really are a troublesome one." Raphael smiled calmly. "Someone who plays with men's hearts as casually as you, and you're the one saying that? First a coward, now an idiot too. Who's going to be the third one, I wonder?" Swanna answered with a scornful laugh. "It's not you, so don't worry about it. Why are you even asking?" Raphael shrugged. "Why wouldn't I worry? No matter who you run off with, I'll kill them all and drag you back anyway." She glared, cursing inwardly. What an insane murderer. But just as he'd said, even if she died to escape now, she'd only end up right back at the beginning again anyway. So with that thought, she said, "Fine, let's handle one thing at a time. Future husband, why do you need me? Is it because being near me lets you purify those evil spirits?" As she said this, Swanna thought to herself, "Seems like I'm not about to be killed on the spot for now at least." He said slowly, "Evil spirits can't be purified, only sealed." Swanna paused. "Sealed?" Raphael nodded and explained, "If I cut them down, I can trap them inside my sword. That's why my blade always reeks of rot and echoes with screaming curses." Swanna couldn't help but ask, "Do they talk to you?" Raphael answered through gritted teeth, "All they think about is killing, and it's not just the ones sealed in the sword. They're everywhere. Even when I die exactly the way they want, I just come back to life over and over, a life cursed endlessly, forever toyed with by evil spirits. You can't hear them, so you don't understand any of this. Right this very moment, they're surrounding us. They're screaming that they'll destroy everything." Swanna startled and called out, "Raphael." She took hold of his hand. The air around Raphael immediately fell quiet again. Only then did she ask, "Are you okay? Calm down, take a deep breath." Raphael slowly steadied his breathing. He closed his eyes for a moment. After opening them again, he said, "When your hand touches mine, everything disappears. I can't see or hear anything at all. The world goes as quiet as if it never existed at all, to the point that this entire life of struggle feels meaningless." As he said this, he suddenly recalled the insults from long ago. "Get away, this is disgusting. Just looking at his face makes me sick. People said he used to scream into empty space." "You demon." Seeing this, Swanna hesitated before asking, Are you really okay? Isn't my hand enough? Should we try bare feet instead? Raphael raised both hands in surrender. That's enough. Let go now, Swana continued. I really am worried about you. But do I actually have some kind of power? No one at the temple ever said anything like that. Raphael suddenly grew curious. Have you ever held their hands before? Swana nodded. Yeah, I have. Back when Michael still traveled with me. He asked further. Did that man never say anything? She fell into thought. Now that I think about it, when I was faking the purification ritual, his reaction really was a bit strange. Raphael took the chance to ask about Malik. And what about that idiot knight you ran away with for love? At the very least, the two of you must have held hands too, right? The moment he said it, Swana looked at him with contempt. Wow, you know something? You sound exactly like a petty, jealous man. How gross! Raphael immediately shouted. I'm only curious about your power. Swana fell silent for a moment. Then she changed the subject. Are there any spirits that don't cause harm? Raphael glanced at her like she was an idiot. What a ridiculous question. There's no such thing as a good spirit in this world. Swana smiled and said, But you never know, right? Maybe I could make them fight each other and drive one of them out. Just then, a plate on the shelf suddenly began to tremble. Then it flew straight up and crashed back down. Swana cried out in shock. Oh my God. Scared me half to death. What was that? Don't tell me it's a ghost. Raphael answered calmly. It's nothing unusual. Not a single day goes by in this house without something breaking. You think ghosts would do something like that? Hearing this, Swana trembled with fury. Seeing this, Raphael mistook it for fear. He thought to himself, after going through all that, I suppose it's only natural she'd be scared. Right after, Swana shouted again, Hey, are you not going to clean this up right now? If you're not paying rent, what exactly do you think you're doing? Do you want me to perform an aggressive exorcism on you? There's a limit to how far a joke can go. What if someone actually gets hurt? The ghosts make the mess and someone else has to clean it up? While Raphael stood dumbfounded at her behavior, a red-haired female ghost named Helen asked, Who's going to clean this up? A male ghost named Enzo answered, Whoever broke it cleans it up. The whole group turned to look at a child named Chloe. Chloe immediately stomped his feet and shouted, I didn't do it. That's not fair. Everyone took part in breaking things. Why do I have to clean it up alone? Just then, Raphael couldn't help but burst out laughing. Swana didn't understand what was going on in the world around him. She asked curiously, What is it? Why are you laughing? I'm being serious here. Raphael answered, No, it's just that I've never seen them like this before. Up until now, they were always just shadows. Today is the first time I've clearly seen their faces. Swana looked in surprise toward where his eyes were pointed. Oh, they're over there? In the corner? A ghost named Mopon asked. Sis, what's wrong with that person? So scary. Helen, annoyed at being clung to, snapped. Stop being such a scaredy cat. Anyone can tell she's dirt poor already. A ghost named Lucy wondered. What does money have to do with it? If you don't listen to me, I think she's going to exorcise us. Not far from there. An old woman ghost named Ket called out. Hey, Chloe, that's dangerous. Come here, the little boy called out, crying in fright. Grandma? Enzo said irritably. Old lady, stop spoiling him already. Tell him to come clean this up. A ghost named Thomas called out. Come on, Enzo, have you forgotten? You're not allowed to touch children or the elderly. Emma asked where the broom went. On the ground. Old man Maxian sighed. I want some cake. Suddenly, a gurgling sound rang out. The whole group, Raphael included, turned to look at the old man. Maxian immediately said, Huh, that wasn't me. Swana suddenly blushed. She said, embarrassed. I haven't eaten a thing since I left the temple. Raphael stood up at once. In that case, why don't we eat before it gets dark, future bride? Swana looked back at him, still blushing. The two of them left together just like that. The ghosts watched them go through the window. Emma gave a soft laugh. Someone scary has arrived. Thomas nodded. Exactly right. Out on the street, Swana asked curiously, Is everyone avoiding us? She remembered being turned away every time they tried to enter a restaurant. Sorry, we're full. We're out of ingredients, too. At that, she couldn't help raising her voice. Ridiculous. Why can't we even get into a single restaurant? Oh, wait, is it because I still look like a sacred maiden from the temple? No, Raphael shook his head slightly. It's because of me. Because this is before I was granted the title of war hero. So people probably think I'm some madman who talks to himself. There are even rumors that I'm haunted by ghosts. Swana turned her face away, answering indifferently. I see you're more famous than I thought. Raphael looked at her. Assuming to himself, she probably finds him unlucky and is annoyed by him just like everyone else. Swana gritted her teeth and rubbed her stomach from hunger. The two of them walked until nightfall before finally finding food. She sighed with relief. Thank goodness that street vendor was willing to sell us something to eat. Not bad at all. Behind them, Chloe whispered, not quite able to hear. Can't we get any closer? Mopon stopped him. No, we can't. If she notices us, she'll destroy us for sure. Trailing behind the couple, Enzo frowned and said, Hey kid, old lady Ket told me to bring you back safe. So behave yourself. Got it? Chloe clicked his tongue, annoyed. Shh, old man. He immediately shouted. What did you say? Old man, you little brat. Chloe yelped the moment he got smacked. Ow? Enzo continued. Want me to send you straight down to the underworld instead? The boy shouted loudly. Ah, don't hit me. At that moment, Lucy pulled Mopon aside to talk privately, leaving him confused and flustered. Meanwhile, the two of them were still strolling down the street. Raphael said he only returned to the past when he died. Swana popped the last bite of bread into her mouth. Confirmed, I knew it. Last time you fell off that cliff, I got pulled back along with you too. She gritted her teeth as she recounted being reset right in the middle of things going well, because of someone. Raphael apologized, looking guilty. What if I died first? She wondered to herself. Would time just stop, leaving only Raphael able to move? He answered quickly. Time keeps flowing regardless, even after you die, right up until the moment I die myself. Swana brushed her hair back and answered awkwardly, I see, while inwardly curious. So what if Raphael didn't die? On the day I was first burned at the stake? Or any of the times I died and came back to life? My life could end at any moment at all. Change of plan? I absolutely cannot die before he does. With that, she said, cowering, if I've ever done anything to upset you. Count, I apologize. No, I sincerely apologize. This left Raphael completely baffled. Swana froze. Oh right, he wasn't even a count yet. Only then did Raphael notice how deserted the surroundings had become. He frowned and said, It's getting dark. Let's head back. Swana nodded. Yes, okay. Just then, she was suddenly yanked backward by something. Raphael startled and shouted, Sacred Maiden? Swana cried out in alarm too. No. He rushed after her, Swana. After the two of them ended up inside the house, Swana was released. She rubbed her backside and said, I didn't go in there on my own, you know. Ow, my backside hurts. Raphael said seriously, It's an evil spirit. Stay still. At the same moment, the door of the house suddenly slammed shut. Swana turned pale and cried out, Are we trapped in here? Raphael said in a low voice. Wait here. Damn it, we're sealed in. The moment he finished speaking, Lucy's voice rang out beside his ear. Want to get out? If you want to leave this place, the two of you have to kiss? Raphael's face went completely blank. The ghosts outside the door startled too, breaking into a cold sweat as they peered inside. After a moment, Raphael finally reacted. Hey, you're one of the spirits living in my house. Stop talking nonsense. Open the door. Lucy frowned and said, My sister stole my fiancé right before our wedding day. My family was very strict, so before the wedding, I hadn't even held his hand once. He was somewhat at a loss for words, so you're stunned from the shock of it? But what does that have to do with me? Get out of the way now. Lucy lowered her voice. It's just that seeing the two of you together like this reminds me of myself back then. I just want to know what would have happened if that relationship had continued. So kiss already. I won't leave until I'm satisfied. Raphael's face darkened as he snapped, You really are insane. I'm exorcising you right now. At the same moment, a pair of small hands suddenly wrapped around him. Chloe clung on and shouted, Kiss! Raphael snapped irritably, What the hell is this? Let go. Seeing this, Swana asked, Raphael, what are you doing? What are the ghosts saying? Chloe kept clinging to him, shouting nonstop, Kiss her. Raphael answered irritably, Damn it, how would I know? Why are they this strong? The moment he said it, a pair of hands suddenly shoved Swanna hard from behind, and she cried out in shock. Ah! On reflex, Swanna stumbled forward and wrapped her arms around Raphael, while in his mind the ghosts kept chanting over and over, "Kiss her, kiss her." Even though she couldn't hear their cheering, Swanna's face still turned bright red. She stared blankly at Raphael for a long moment. Then she quickly stepped back, stammering, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Raphael's face slowly turned red too. Damn it, this must mean I've been possessed by that damned ghost. He gripped Swanna's shoulders. Just bear with it for a moment. This is the fastest way out of here, he thought to himself. Otherwise, there's no way I'd ever. Swanna startled and asked, "What are you doing?" Raphael pressed his lips together. "I can't believe I'm actually doing this." Seeing his lips drawing closer, Swanna couldn't help but panic. "Huh, wait, huh, what?" She screamed silently inside, "Huh?" Almost the exact moment their lips touched, the door suddenly burst open. As she was flung outside, Swanna said in surprise, "Huh, we really did get out just like that." Just as I predicted, everything went exactly according to plan. I knew it, haha. At the same time, a commotion suddenly broke out beside them. "What are you two doing in front of the children?" Enzo scolded Mopon for helping Lucy. Mopon cried out, trembling. "Lucy said she'd kill me if I didn't help," Enzo shot back. "So you're scared of dying, but not of doing that." Chloe huddled up, shouting, "Kiss!" while Raphael coldly warned he'd destroy them all if they didn't disappear. Enzo hurriedly slung Lucy over his shoulder and dragged the other two idiots away with him. Swanna couldn't hold back her curiosity. So what exactly was all that about? Raphael answered, "You don't need to know." Just then, a voice suddenly rang out, "Excuse me, did you two just come out of that haunted house?" "And you're perfectly fine. Not a scratch on you either." Swanna started to explain. Before she could even finish, Raphael grabbed her hand and pulled her away. "Come on, let's go. Don't get involved in this." Instead, the old woman who'd just spoken suddenly dropped to her knees. "Please, could you help this old woman? I'll pay you generously. Please, just this once." Not long after, Raphael and Swanna followed the old woman. He said coldly, "Hey, old lady, I'm only going along with this because you asked. Don't expect too much from me." The old woman answered, stammering, "Yes." Behind him, Swanna quietly asked, "Do you sense anything like an evil spirit near her?" Raphael shook his head. "No, nothing at all." After walking a bit further, the old woman suddenly pointed in one direction. "It's here. I'm getting old too, so I sold the house to move in with my son and daughter-in-law. But no one else can step into this house. Anyone other than me. The moment they touch the gate, they get hurt or thrown back, as if pulled hard by some kind of force." Once she finished speaking, the old woman looked at them with hopeful eyes. Do you see anything?" Swanna frowned and looked around. A moment later, she asked, "Ma'am, did you used to keep a dog?" The old woman didn't answer. Raphael suddenly asked, "Your dog has passed away, hasn't it?" She lowered her head and answered quietly, "That's right, I didn't even get the chance to do anything for him before he left so suddenly." Swanna cried out guiltily, "I'm sorry." Raphael shook his head and sighed. Either way, this house itself isn't haunted. If it were, the old woman wouldn't have been able to stay safe like this. "All right, let's go." The old woman cried out urgently, "What? Wait. Please wait just a moment, if possible. Please take just one more look." The instant the old woman knelt down, Raphael heard a low growl. He startled and turned to look. Something suddenly shot through the air, clawing a few bloody marks onto his hand. Raphael shouted urgently, "You two, get behind me!" At the same time, he also heard a voice. "Heh heh. Look who's here, how amusing. Look at that, eyes darting around nervously everywhere." Raphael thought through gritted teeth. "Damn it! Where is it?" Right before his eyes, the ground beneath him suddenly gave way. Raphael immediately dropped into some unknown void. The screams of evil spirits echoed around him, endlessly urging him to just die already. Raphael thought madly, "Kill me then. They're going to kill me. No, please, just kill me already." "Just kill me and be done with it," Swanna shouted urgently. "Raphael, wake up. I'm holding your hand right now. You'll be all right soon. So please don't die." Raphael Winters? She thought anxiously. "Not again. Watching someone die right in front of me. I don't want to see that again." At that moment, Raphael regained his composure too. He asked in surprise what happened. Swanna let out a breath. Are you feeling better now? You suddenly collapsed and started convulsing. I was worried sick. Raphael glanced down at her hand, where the gentle light was glowing. He closed his eyes and said, I feel like I can breathe again. It feels like I could keep on living. As long as she's beside me. After a few seconds of silence, Swana cleared her throat. Sorry, your hand is hurt. It needs treatment right away. Raphael lifted his hand. Ah. Looking at the bite marks on it, he said, Seems like your dog is guarding this place. The old woman startled and asked, Huh, my Topi? Wait, you can actually see my Topi? Raphael glanced to the side, saying a pair of small hands were wagging back and forth. He asked, A big white dog with a lame back left leg, right? No. The old woman cried out, deeply moved, Topi, if you've already left this world, you should be resting in peace. So why are you still lingering here? Is it because your leg hurts too much to move on? It should be me carrying you, not the other way around. I'm sorry, Topi, this useless old woman couldn't even hold you properly. Seeing the old woman sitting there sniffling all alone, Swana's eyes suddenly welled up. So she sat down and said, Oh, Topi, you sweet thing, why are you so good and adorable? Good boy. Good boy, come here, Raphael asked, confused. What are you doing? Swana turned to look at him. Stop teasing, just watch and see if he comes to me. That way the old woman will know where Topi is. He held up his hand, covered in bite and scratch marks. You see the wounds it left on me, right? It seems wary of anyone who isn't the old woman. There's no way it would ever come near you. The moment he said that, a dog's bark rang out, Woof! Right before Raphael's astonished eyes, Topi actually leapt straight into Swana's arms. Topi then went limp and collapsed, completely unconscious. Only then did Raphael react. Swana. Damn it. What on earth just happened? Hey, open your eyes, Swana. Are you okay? After coming to, Swana immediately ran to the old woman and cried out, Grandma, come play with me. Does your knee hurt? It hurts so much, doesn't it? So you won't play with me then? The old woman asked, bewildered. Huh? What? She continued. Topi saw everything, you know. If you just stay lying down like this and only complain about the pain, you have to eat well and move around a lot to get strong again. Only then did the old woman realize, stunned, Topi? Are you really Topi? Inside Swana's body, Topi answered, Yes, ma'am. The old woman looked at her in astonishment. 2 streams of tears suddenly ran down her face. Topi. Topi, thank you for always staying by my side. I'll live healthily, so you go on ahead now. And thank you. Speaking through Swana's mouth, it answered, Hey, Grandma, Topi is fine. Take your time. Topi is very good at letting go. Grandma, I love you. Sometime later, Swana's consciousness suddenly returned to her own body. Finding herself with her head resting on Raphael's lap, she startled and cried out, Huh? He said calmly. You woke up sooner than I expected. How are you feeling? Swana sat up abruptly, blushing as she answered, I'm fine, probably just a little tired. Anyway, Raphael sighed. Strange things just seem to keep happening whenever I'm around you. He suddenly regained a serious expression and turned his head to the side. Looking embarrassed, he said, I was worried that something had happened too. The old woman suddenly cut in. Thanks to you, I was able to say a proper final goodbye to Topi. Thank you so much. Swana answered, Oh, it's nothing. Topi must have passed on peacefully now. The old woman smiled. I don't even know how I could repay this kindness. Meanwhile, Raphael let out a sigh of relief too. So she really had been possessed. Swana's power wasn't as simple as just driving away spirits after all. On the way back, Raphael kept asking, Can you move your hands and feet? How does your body feel? This has never happened before, so how did it turn out this way? Did someone tell you to die? If you notice any strange smell or anything at all unusual, tell me immediately. Right now. Is it really you? Swana had heard enough, gritting her teeth and shouting furiously, My hand's about to fall off already. I already told you I'm completely fine. I'm exhausted. How much longer are you going to keep asking? He kept dodging every time she reached out, which only made her more furious. Just stand still and take it already. Raphael said in a low voice, That's not the point. You said this never happened to you in your past life. It seems like being in contact with me is the cause, so I'm just trying to be careful. Swana frowned and asked, Why don't you worry about yourself instead? You're the one who was trembling all over, saying you'd see ghosts if you didn't hold my hand. Raphael stammered, flustered. Who said I was trembling? She shrugged and continued. I honestly thought it was the dead of winter, you know. This time it was his turn to grit his teeth in anger. Damn it. Anyone in my situation would tremble too. Now that you mention it, weren't you the one shaking uncontrollably because you hate fire so much? How does a sacred maiden who can jump into the water without a second thought end up terrified of being burned alive? Huh? Must be some tragic history with fire or something. The moment he said it, Raphael realized he'd said something wrong. Swanna's face darkened as she stared at him for a long moment. Then she asked, her voice trembling, "You said you didn't want to see ghosts, yet you dragged someone who hates them all the way out here." Raphael quickly called out, "Hey, that was a slip of the tongue." She kept pressing, "Since when do you care about me enough to fire off a whole barrage of questions like that?" He lowered his head, sorry. Seeing this, Swanna let out a sigh. She turned to the side and said, "Forget it. Since it's now certain that if you die I'll regress too, I have no intention of leaving or secretly running away anymore. Since we've already decided to live together anyway, I'll hold your hand for as long as I want until the day you actually pass away." Raphael answered sincerely, "I'm truly grateful for that." Swanna gave a mischievous smile. "If you're that grateful, how about letting me hit you once or twice every now and then?" "What, don't you like that idea?" Raphael fell into thought. Then he stepped closer. Spreading his arms wide, "Go ahead, hit me." Swanna rubbed her wrist, pressing her lips together and asking, "You won't take that back later, will you?" With that, she lunged forward and threw a punch straight at Raphael, then followed it with a kick to his leg, sending him staggering backward at once. His eyes went wide, breaking into a sweat that hurt. Are you actually a sacred maiden?" Swanna laughed brightly. "This feels so satisfying." Seeing this, Raphael asked, "So does that mean you're not angry anymore?" Swanna answered indifferently, "Not sure yet, depends on how you behave from here." Raphael let out a breath, suddenly recalling her words, "Since we've already decided to live together anyway. I'll hold your hand for as long as I want until the day you actually pass away." Wait, until the day I actually pass away? Something about that sounded strange. He rushed after her. "Wait, Swanna, do you know something about my death?" At the same moment, she cried out in alarm too. "Raphael, look over there." The two of them stepped into the house, and Swanna exclaimed in surprise, "Wow, this is amazing, they actually did what you told them to. Who would have thought ghosts could actually clean? Look, they even finished the laundry." Swanna flopped down exhausted on the sofa and sighed. "Well, this finally looks like a place fit for a human to live in." Behind Raphael, Thomas, dressed in a maid's outfit, asked, "Hey, master, if you tell that woman we cleaned this much, does that mean we don't have to pay rent anymore?" He asked in surprise, "Are you all serious right now?" Helen walked up carrying a broom over her shoulder. "Go on, ask her already." Raphael clicked his tongue and asked, "Swanna, what do you think of the cleaning?" She asked in surprise. "Why do you ask? Did the ghosts tell you to ask that?" He nodded. "Yeah, do you like it?" Swanna smiled brightly and said, "Liking it isn't even enough to describe it. I absolutely love it. Automated housework is the best thing ever." Raphael froze for a moment. Then he said, "I'm glad to hear that." The ghosts behind him were suddenly stunned. "He's actually smiling. Look at that. We're the ones who did all the hard work cleaning, though." Seeing Raphael's face suddenly darken, Swanna couldn't help but grow suspicious. "What's wrong? Is something not right?" He turned his head to the side. "No, it's nothing." Seeing him sit down beside her, she shooed him away, annoyed that there wasn't enough room. In a corner of the house, Helen felt ignored and annoyed, while Lucy suggested going to peek at the Marquis's estate next door, which made Thomas curious enough to ask. Lucy answered, "I heard their second son fell in love with a maid." Emma exclaimed, "Oh my!" Helen asked excitedly, "Really, let's go." Thomas rubbed his chin. "Forbidden love, huh? That's not exactly rare." Enzo immediately explained, "No, it's not like that. They were forced apart. Apparently, the Marchioness used money to split them up." Helen's eyes immediately lit up. If money was involved, then it must be true. Lucy answered sadly, "That's a lie. That wasn't love." Mopon chimed in too. "It's true. I saw it myself." The maid was so desperate she would have rather died hearing this, Helen shouted angrily. "You just stood there watching? You should have helped them." Mopon mumbled that he'd been powerless because he'd been sent abroad as the young master. After listening for a while, Raphael suddenly spoke up instead of gossiping nonsense here. "Why don't you all go see for yourselves? I can't listen to any more of this." The ghosts quickly scattered around. Swanna asked curiously, "What did they say that made you tell them to leave?" Raphael let out a breath, "Just some idle gossip." Swanna suddenly fell into thought, After a few seconds of consideration, she jumped up and said, "They've worked so hard around the house, we should reward them with something." Raphael asked in surprise, "Reward the ghosts? How? And how do you even know they'll come back at all?" Swana raised a finger. If I lay out a big hearty meal, won't they just come sniffing around on their own? She thought to herself, even if I called it a home-cooked meal, he probably wouldn't understand anyway. Hearing her out, Raphael suddenly burst out laughing. "That's ridiculous. I've never once heard of ghosts eating food." She shrugged. "Oh, but you've already seen ghosts clean the house, haven't you?" After a few seconds of stunned silence, Raphael nodded. "I understand, so go to sleep now. The room you'll be using is on the left side of the upper floor. I'll go to the market at dawn to buy some food, so don't worry." Swana asked in surprise, "Why go alone at dawn? Let's just go together in the morning." But Raphael shook his head again. Seeing her confusion, he explained, "You know how it is. We did get kicked out of that restaurant together, after all. If I go at dawn before any customers arrive, they'll sell me the leftover ingredients from the day before." Swana said angrily, "That's outrageous. How could they do that?" Raphael said calmly not to be upset, explaining that they kept their distance out of fear of losing customers because of the rumors. But he was confident that once he became a count, things would settle down. Swana called out in a low voice, "Raphael Winters, I have lived as a low-ranking sacred maiden across many lifetimes now. No matter what ingredients you bring home, I will cook a dish even more delicious than anything the Count's own head chef could make. Just wait and see, understood?" He answered with a smile. "Understood, I'll be waiting." She nodded and said, "Then I'll head upstairs first. Make sure you bring back just the right amount of ingredients." Raphael replied, "All right, sleep well." Not far away, Maxian and Ket, watching the scene, froze for a moment. A few seconds later, the two of them suddenly looked at each other and smiled. Ket said in a low voice, "Look at him grinning from ear to ear. What a beautiful sight. Truly beautiful." The next day, the sun had just risen. Swana came yawning down the stairs. "Good morning." Hearing no reply, she suddenly remembered, "Oh, right. Raphael said he was going to the market to buy food." She sat down on the sofa, her eyes wandering around the room. Muttering to herself, "I still can't quite wrap my head around the fact that ghosts live here." With that thought, she asked, "Is anyone there?" "No." No one answered, and Swana said, a little disappointed, "Well, there was never any chance they'd actually answer anyway." So boring. Just then, an idea suddenly struck her. "Oh, that's right. There's always that method, isn't there?" So Swana took out a sheet of paper and a pen and set them on the table. After drawing a circle and an X on the paper, Swana began the ritual. Ouija board, Ouija board. Ouija board, what comes next? In a corner Swana couldn't see, Helen asked, puzzled. What on earth is she doing? Meanwhile, she kept holding the pen. Closing her eyes, she recited, "Spirit board, come here, O spirit, come and sit down." Enzo tilted his head. "Is she calling us?" Chloe immediately raised his hand. "Hey, let me go." Ket quickly stopped the boy. "No, it's too dangerous. I sense a terrifying energy." "Run, Chloe," the boy asked, bewildered. "Huh?" At the same time, Enzo's face darkened too. Ugh, what's that smell? Right after, Chloe suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, making Ket cry out in worry. "Chloe." Almost at the same moment, an evil spirit shrouded in dark energy appeared across from Swana. Helen suddenly clutched her head and cried out as if reliving a painful memory. "It hurts. I'm sorry, honey." Enzo showed similar signs too. "Brother, no, you traitors, huh?" Chloe clung tightly to Ket's arm. It hurts so much." She quickly shouted, "Everyone, gather up and get out of here now." The whole group scrambled up and ran outside. Unlike them, Swana couldn't sense anything at all. She murmured thoughtfully, This is way too quiet. Ouija board. "Oh, spirit, are you here? Isn't this how it's supposed to work?" "Ah, right in front of her." The evil spirit spoke up. "That's right. I'm here. Everyone else has left, so it's just me now." Swana gripped the pen tightly. "Looking bewildered, huh? Nothing's moving at all? Did they all go off to play somewhere?" With that, she tossed the pen in her hand aside. Seeing this, the evil spirit picked up the pen. Swana cried out excitedly, "Wow, it's moving. This is so cool. This is the first time I've actually succeeded at this." Hey, what's your name?" The evil spirit hesitated. What was my name again?" Watching it scrawl messily on the paper, Swana continued asking. It wrote, "Melissa Willow, Jenna Elias. What a long name. Is that really your name?" The evil spirit drew an X on the paper and she said, "Oh." "Parents?" Teacher, seeing everything marked with an X, Swana couldn't help but feel frustrated. Then what is it? Maybe a lover? Or an enemy, haha. She suddenly shivered, thinking, why did it suddenly get so cold? The evil spirit suddenly let out a roar. The window glass instantly shattered. A while later, Raphael, just returning home, saw the devastated scene from outside. He cried out in shock, "Swana, Swana!" dropping the bag of groceries in his hands to the ground. Raphael rushed into the house. Damn it, what the hell happened here? At the same time, Swana's voice suddenly rang out in his hand. Raphael, help me. He rushed toward the voice. Swana, where are you? The voice answered back. Here, help me. Raphael lifted up the wreckage inside the house. Swana, are you under here? His gaze suddenly froze. The moment he saw her among the debris, Raphael dropped to his knees, blaming himself. This is all my fault. If only I'd gone with Swana, like she'd asked, this never would have happened. He hastily pulled out the knife from behind his back. Pressing it to his own throat, he said, I'll come back right away and save you again. As the blade pressed against his throat, Swana's words suddenly echoed in Raphael's mind. You're the one who dragged me all the way out here when I said I didn't want to see ghosts. Since when did you start caring about me this much? He told himself, no. This time I won't go looking for her again. Swana suddenly appeared behind him, not looking for what exactly? Raphael spun around, crying out in bewilderment, Swana? She immediately shouted, what the hell are you doing? Seriously, put that knife down right now. Raphael stammered, Are you actually alive? Swana urged him frantically, calm down and put the knife down first. A moment later, amid the wreckage, Swana patted his shoulder and said, No matter how many times I called out to you, you wouldn't even look back, you just kept running off. I kept wondering if something was seriously wrong. What is it? Did you see a ghost or something? Raphael let out a sigh. Swana, she nodded, yeah. He took her hand and said sincerely, When the moment finally comes for me to face it, I won't run from it. If I ever go back to the past again, I will never hold you back again. But when I hold your hand, I feel like I can finally breathe. I don't want to die anymore. Swana froze for a moment. She quickly laughed it off. That ghost must have really messed with you. I'm fine. So don't. Once he'd calmed down, Raphael suddenly grew curious. By the way, why did the house end up in such a state? Swana said uneasily, I think they got angry because I talked to them. Raphael asked loudly in shock, You talked to ghosts? Why would you do that? You were just possessed not long ago. What if they'd followed you home because you dared to chat with them so carelessly? Swana answered without thinking. I just used a perfectly safe, traditional method. I used to play around with it with my friends all the time. No harm ever came of it. Raphael suddenly asked, A traditional method? Only then did Swana realize she'd said something wrong and quickly covered her mouth. Oops, he said in a low voice. Does this empire have a tradition of talking to ghosts? I've lived for hundreds of lifetimes and never once heard of such a thing. And even if it did exist, you were locked away in an attic your entire life. There's no way you could have played games like that with friends. Swana tried to brush it off. It's really nothing to make a fuss over. But Raphael said, If it's really nothing, then you should be able to tell me easily enough. Swana, who exactly are you? Thank you all for watching today's video. Our story still has plenty of exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support us and never miss the newest episodes. We hope you enjoyed these relaxing, fun few minutes. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.